Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I am your hoarse-voiced host. Say that 5 times fast. Perry, thank you all so much for listening into this week. It is a very, very special episode, one that I have been very excited about for a while now, and is just the start of what I'm calling the 2 weeks of festivals. It's a very catchy title, I know it is. But this is all the recordings that we did from Hometown Rising this past weekend, and it is it's all interviews. It's a really, really fun time. I think you're going to enjoy it. There are some huge surprises in there that I didn't even really know were going to happen until about 5 or 10 minutes before they did. So I think you're really, really, really going to enjoy this one. I will be back with you at the end, though, to chat a little bit more, but until then, enjoy this episode. Our first guest of the day is JD Shelburne.
What's
JD,
up?
welcome to the show, man.
Man, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell the folks a little bit about where you're from, what brought you to Hometown Rising.
I am from Taylorsville, Kentucky, which is a little small town about 40 minutes from right where we're sitting. And I grew up on a tobacco farm there in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And moved to Nashville in 2008. Started playing guitar in college about 2002 after the death of my grandmother. I found a guitar she had when I was in college. Taught myself to play and sing around the house for 2 or 3 years, and started building a little fan base kind of one by one, playing clubs and around Louisville, Lexington, all the central Kentucky area. And so Nashville, 2008, moved there, and haven't looked back since, man. Played about 3,000 shows. I do over 200 a year, and I got asked to be on this show last year. They had mentioned it to me. I met Danny Wimmer at Derby.
Yeah.
And he had kind of put a bug in my ear about, hey, we're going to bring a country festival to Louisville. I'd love to have you a part of it. And I'm like, man, don't you forget. And they called me in January. And
that's awesome,
we were on stage in about 2 hours.
Well, I did not realize that you were from Kentucky, and off air, I just kind of mansplained to you how far Lexington is away from Louisville, and I really apologize for that.
No, that's all good, man. I haven't been there in 10 years, man, so you tend to forget those things.
So, country festival. What kind of niche of country music do you kind of lean towards?
You know, I grew up on a tobacco farm. We raised tobacco in my family, so we listened. That was in the late '90s, early 2000s. So '90s country's big for me, man. I grew up on Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson and Tim McGraw and all these big '90s artists. And so, I was born in '82. So when '92 rolled around, Garth came out. Man, that's when the tapes were starting to hit Walmart, CDs.
Yeah.
And I cut my teeth on 90s country, and then 2002 when I started playing guitar, 90s was starting to fade out, but 2000s pop was coming on.
Yeah.
And, all that stuff, and the 90s rock and roll with Matchbox 20, Goo Goo Dolls, all those guys. I was mixing them in, so that's what I was raised on.
I like that you're kind of taking this kind of hodgepodge of different influences. But, it seems like all those different influences would work really, really well together. I mean, whether it's taken from a songwriting perspective or, your guitar style or whatever, I mean, that totally makes sense to kind of mesh all of that together. Are you excited about seeing Tim McGraw?
Very, man. This will be my first time actually being on a bill with him.
That's
I've done
cool.
lots of shows, but he's usually been like the next day or the next, just either the next town over. But tonight, I see my name on the poster and his name's up above mine a couple lines. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And so, I've seen him in concert several times, on days off. But man, that dude can throw down and throw a show on, man.
Yeah.
And he's gonna light Louisville, Kentucky up tonight.
Is it kind of a dream come true, being able to share the bill with him? And
you took the words out of my mouth, man. I've told this story many times. I'm like, man, when I found out when I booked this show. When Danny Wimmer told me about this show, January came along and they booked me for the show. They didn't tell us who was going to be on the show with us. They just said, "Hey, there's going to be some quote big artists a part of this, and we'd love to have you. Can we commit you on contract?" I'm like, "Sure." April rolls around. They asked me to come up for the announcement, and when I saw the announcement for the very first time and saw Tim McGraw in the big bold letters, I'm like, "Oh my God, man, they weren't playing."
I know they were not.
And so it's a dream come true for me. I mean, all these guys: Keith Urban, tomorrow, Luke, Dwight Yoakam tonight. He's a Kentucky boy, and I mean. Could they have got any better lineup?
I don't think so.
It is solid, man.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's talk bourbon, too, though.
Yeah, man, of course.
We were saying a little bit beforehand that you've actually got a little bit of bourbon in your veins.
I do.
Not just being a Kentucky boy.
Right.
But,
gosh, when everyone says Kentucky now, they think of the Derby or the Bourbon Trail.
Yeah, right.
They don't realize there's country music, sewn in as well. Ricky Skaggs and all these Kentucky artists, John Michael and Montgomery Gentry. But, yeah, man, I've been a touring band for about 10 years, and we've done shows for so many bourbon companies, and that has helped us along the way. But right now, Evan Williams has just backed us, and they're sponsoring
that is
us.
Awesome, man.
They've bought us a new trailer. We're going to wrap Evan Williams around our trailer with my face on the side of it, I guess. I'd rather put somebody else's on there, but I'll take the promo. And so next week, they bought the trailers for us. We have it here today, and we're going to go on. They're going to sponsor us all next year as well, and they have been awesome. But not just Evan Williams, Four Roses Bourbon has sponsored me. Angel's Envy has sponsored me. Jim Beam, we've got a lot of bourbon friends, and it's hard when people ask me, hey, what's your favorite bourbon? And I'm like, man, I got so many friends in the bourbon industry.
I can't choose either.
I can't choose, man.
There's no way.
And at the end of the day, most of it kind of tastes similar.
All right, here we go.
We're
getting into it now, JD.
But I'm grateful for all their support.
Yeah, man, I think it's really cool that not only have you been able to, reach these heights with your music, but an industry that is so rooted in Kentucky has latched onto you as well. I mean, that is like the glow-up story of being a Kentucky boy.
Yeah,
is finding everything that all of your passions just getting rolled into one, and everything that makes you. You get to enjoy.
Kentucky's a springboard, man. There's so much stuff here to help artists like me with bourbon and the horse races industry, and there's so much here, man. I mean, even some of your biggest, Yum brands is here.
Yeah.
Papa John's, Texas Road. I mean, there's a lot of not only bourbon but other platforms that based out of this state. I mean, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, they're worldwide. I mean, this is such a state that so many people can latch on and help you springboard, and and get sponsors and stuff. It's been amazing, and to be able to latch and use those guys to help us along the way.
How often are you going to the Derby?
I go every year, man. Every single year.
Awesome.
I've done I actually proposed to my wife on the red carpet 4 or 5 years ago, so we go every year now.
That's awesome.
It's a tradition for us, and
Good for you
we don't
guys.
always win. But.
So what's next for you coming up here soon?
As of January 1, today is our 156th show. And so we have burned the roads up, man. So we're going to continue touring. We got a ton of shows coming up, and we're going to Vegas next month. I'm going to Chicago next week. I'll be playing everywhere, man. I got lots of shows. JDShelburne.com is our website. Leading into next year, man, we have a new record coming out. And, that's very exciting for us. And every year we get a little bit farther up the totem pole.
Good, man.
And if I could play shows like this every weekend, man, I don't think it gets any better than this.
Be a dream come true.
Oh, of course. Amen, man.
JD, thank you so much for sitting down.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Yeah, you too. So next guest is Imaj.
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm fabulous.
Good.
Now that I've heard from you, Perry, and you're like, oh, you're so fantastic. How could I not feel great after that?
Oh my gosh! So you kicked off Hometown Rising.
Yes.
With a fantastic 30-minute set.
Oh, thank you.
You're
so sweet.
You are dubbed America's Country Sweetheart, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your music. Talk about your style and everything, and what's kind of separating you from everybody else in the country music world right now.
Yeah, my style, I pull a lot from classic country, because my favorite country singers are those from like the 50s and 60s, like Johnny Cash, Charlie Pride, and
nice.
Dolly and all of them.
You can't play country music without having a little bit of Dolly.
Yes, you gotta have it. Listen, Dolly is like the queen of everything. She's beautiful.
She absolutely is.
And she's hilarious. You know who she reminds me of?
She's so funny. She's so funny.
Yeah, she reminds me of my mom and my grandma, because they always have like these witty things to say.
Right.
And so, but yeah, it was incredible opening Hometown Rising.
So you are you're no stranger to show business. Your family is
not
at
all.
the very least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about your dad a little bit. Too.
My dad?
Yeah.
Well, he's my dad.
He's your dad.
So Don Johnson, no, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. He's talking about Miami Vice. So my dad was Tubbs on Miami Vice.
Yeah, he was.
Super fashionable, worked it, and police officer. But what people don't know, his number one love is music.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
He's an awesome actor, but his number one love is music. And I think that's part of what I get for him is the thing about music is you touch people in a way that is tangible, but you don't really touch them physically. It's in the heart.
Yeah. What was like his kind of musical
Broadway.
Really?
Total Broadway.
That's so awesome.
Hair. Naked on the stage. It's what they did. I mean, it was the 60s.
Awesome.
That's what they did.
That's true. I mean, that's very true. That's very
true. They were
true.
all about peace and love.
Speaking of peace and love,
yes,
that's a big part of your thing too.
Yeah.
Is just this really cool sense of community and really trying to like bring people together. And
yes.
you know, that's something that we talk a lot about on the podcast as well. Is that
really?
You know, drinking bourbon's not just about doing shots or like just getting sloshed on a Friday night.
Yeah.
It's about sharing something that is really important to us and has built a community around it too.
Yeah.
But you are doing something so unique with your message,
Thank you.
And it really seems like that was kind of from the get-go. Was that your intention originally?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything I do, I've been asked quite a few times if I wasn't going to do country music, what would I be doing? Regardless of what I'd be doing, it'd be something to help shift the paradigm from survival of the fittest, which is what it kind of feels like right now. Everyone's kind of fighting each other over silly things. Whatever I do in life, I want it to be something that brings people together and helps us live peacefully on the planet.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the number one reasons why we're here as human beings, why we have an intelligence, why we're bipedal, walking around and saying hi to each other, is to kind of raise each other's vibes.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
One big happy family.
There's nothing to be brought about by tearing each other down
or
breaking relationships apart. So I'm all about that message. I think that's something that, when you establish that early on, it really kind of, guides you on a specific path. And I feel like you're a good indication of that, for sure.
And that's something I'll never lose sight of because that was the foundation.
Awesome.
That's why I sing, period.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love hearing that message behind somebody's story and behind what they do.
Thank you.
We have to touch on, too, what I think is one of the coolest things that I have ever heard, seen, done, period.
Really?
It's your cover of Hallelujah.
Oh, really?
5 different languages. 5 different languages in one song. That is incredible.
Thank you.
Were you speaking them all fluently before you, or at least semi-fluently, before you decided to develop this version of the song?
So another thing I got from my father is probably the gift of knowing different dialects and things like that. So I kind of taught them all to myself phonetically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And growing up in Miami Beach, you hear every kind of accent from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that the main reason to sing is the whole peace and love thing. And so I thought, well, let's do something that everyone can understand, regardless of the language that you speak.
And we always say that, like, music is a universal language, right?
Right.
But I feel like there's still that barrier of your native language.
Yeah.
And so seeing something like this, knowing that it exists,
right,
I feel like is a really cool and important source of inspiration.
Thank you.
For people to be able to come together and see that it's something that can be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I 100% applaud you.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
And I have a total romantic relationship with languages. I love the way they feel coming out of my mouth. Like saying different. I know it probably sounds funny.
No, not at all.
But I love the way it feels like changing your mouth to sound something completely foreign to what you know. It's really fun.
We could really get into the psychology of language and everything, and I don't think we have time for it. But what is next for you? What do you have in the works right now?
So what's next for me is my band and I go on to open the State Fair of Texas.
Wow.
We're a special guest of Billy Ray Cyrus, so I open Billy Ray Cyrus's show at the State Fair of Texas.
Okay, all right.
October 13th. Yeah, that's gonna be fabulous.
That took a turn, but I like the turn that it took.
We started walking and then we sped up. Started dancing at the end.
Imaj, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Barry.
Appreciate it. Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it.
So, my first job in 15 was in radio.
I can hear it.
Yeah.
I can definitely hear it in your
It's
voice.
funny, though, because, this is the way I normally talk, but I think also when I get in front of a microphone, it may go down just a little bit. I did it for so many years.
Sure.
It's natural. I'm sorry.
Sure.
So go ahead.
No,
This is your
not
show.
at all. Not at all. This
Okay.
is Wes Henderson from Angels Envy. We're getting right into it, talking about radio careers.
Just jumping right into it, man.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah,
Why
radio
not?
was one of the funnest things I've ever done. I've done a lot of cool stuff. And actually, there's nothing more fun than bourbon, right?
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, doing the podcast has always been fantastic. And I've really
always,
enjoyed it.
I've always wanted to. I just don't have probably the discipline to do it because I know you got to work at it. You have to plan it. And as anybody who works around me knows that I am not the planning kind of guy. I'm very much live in the moment type of individual.
Sure.
But that's what I do. And I'll let guys like you who know what they're doing, with their real talent in podcasting do it.
That is such a compliment. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Man.
So you are the face of Angels Envy right now.
Yeah, I know. It's not a great face, but it's all we got. It's the best
Give
we could
yourself
do.
a little bit
It's the
more
best we
credit
could
there,
do.
Wes.
No, I mean that's what I do. It's our family brand, and I represent not just my family, not just Angels Envy, but a group of amazing teammates and other people who have helped us get where we are. And I'm just blessed to be able to travel around the world and talk about whiskey and meet fans and I'm also excited about being able to talk with people. I mean this is my bourbon. I mean hello, the podcast. I mean there's a podcast of I'm sure to what we do. That's really special.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
But what is it that separates the Angels Envy brand, aside from being family-owned and operated and everything? What is it that really does make Angels Envy stand above the rest in this field?
I think there are a lot of things, and definitely the family aspect of it. But when we first started, when I started this brand, my challenge to my dad, who I got out of retirement, and Dad came and worked with us. Dad's story, a legend in the business, that we wanted to do something that was unique. Something that was exciting, something that we could all get excited about. And secondary barrel finishes seemed to be what we kept coming back to.
Right.
So I think the port barrel finish for our bourbon is probably one of the most unique aspects of it, and the rum barrel finish of our rye is another really almost extreme example of finishing.
I love the rye. Absolutely adore the rye. First time I had it, I was like, I have to get a bottle of this. And sure enough, a couple months later, I was like, this is mine now.
I got it. It's mine. It's my baby. The rye is a lot of fun, and there's a big long story about that. But so I think when we look at differentiations, I think the secondary barrel finishes, and when we started doing it, there was a little bit of noise about it. Because,
Sure.
was it really bourbon after it's been finished in a barrel, even though it had been done before. But we made that our what we hung our hat on. Mm-hmm. And now it's become very mainstream. Secondary barrel finishing, there's no noise about it now. Everybody's doing it.
Everybody does it.
Yeah, exactly. But we do it better.
There you go. I almost asked a question that I was and it was not gonna be phrased the right way.
Ask me anything. Go ahead, man. For real. Go ahead. Take a stab at it.
I think the idea behind it was kind of, what was it about the product that made you feel led to finishing it?
Expound on that a little bit, because that's an interesting rabbit hole to go down. Can you elaborate just a little bit?
So I imagine that at some point when trying it,
right,
whether it had been aged or right off the still,
right,
or whatever, you tasted it and said, we could do even more with it. Not saying that there's...
I understand. Not saying that what we started with wasn't okay.
Exactly.
No, and that's a really good question. But we set out to do a finished whiskey. A finished bourbon.
Sure.
It wasn't a thought. It wasn't like the second thought in the game after we had the bourbon aged, and that was what we intended to do from the very beginning. And it was a key differentiator. And there's so many different things going on in this industry, and I wanted to get Dad really excited about coming out of retirement. Yeah. Secondary barrel finishes is something that he was always very excited about.
And why the port wine then?
Fortified wines just work, the flavor profile works great with bourbon. There's some finishes that don't work as good. Some of your drier, like drier wines, and some that's been tried, but I just don't think it has the same. Sort of fortified wines, sherry, which we did a sherry finish in March.
Yes.
Port, Madeira, Sauterne. Those are some really good examples. And there's different varieties of all those. Mm-hmm. Different types of sherry, different types of port, and there's other spirits we've been experimenting with as well.
So let's talk to you brought this up just a minute ago about Toast the Trees, which I find to be extremely fascinating. I'm going to let you talk about it, though.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It takes 70 years for a tree to grow to the point to where we can make a barrel from it. And we felt it's kind of the program's taken on a bigger meaning than what it really did from the very beginning. But long story short, it takes 70 years to you may only get 2 or 3 barrels out of that tree, by the way.
Sure.
So for the month of September during National Bourbon Month, if you post anything with Angel's Envy in it, like a cocktail, a bottle, or whatever, and you hashtag that toast the trees, we will plant an oak tree. And this year, we're committed to plant 30,000 oak trees. So we need your help in hashtagging those pictures. And I'm telling you, it's really cool. We've already done about 45,000 over the last 3 years. And it's great. And we're planting these trees in areas that have been deforested, from strip mining and other things. And it's a real tangible difference. So
Absolutely.
When the program first started out, I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. But then I really saw the impact of what we're doing when we're planting these trees, and it's taken on a whole new meaning.
Why was this, and I mean, there is that kind of thing in the back of your mind that's going, oh, there's a little bit of an ecological footprint, right? But was it that kind of led you to wanting to do Toast the Trees, or was there something else that kind of led you into
really, my staff came up with the idea.
Okay.
And when I first came out with it, I'm like, okay, this is kind of cute. This is a way to kind of reach out to, and I think as younger people, a lot more conscious of those things than people my age. We were the conspicuous consumption era. I'm 53. We lived like there was no tomorrow. We didn't worry about saving the earth. We just didn't think about that kind of stuff. So when the staff came to me and said they want to do this, I'm like, okay, that's fun, that's cool. But as the ecological benefits, I started to learn about the good that we're doing. Then it took on a whole different meaning to me, and now it's a cornerstone of what we do.
I think that's just fantastic, and the more that you can, kind of expand that brand to not just be about bourbon, and not that there's anything wrong with just being about bourbon, but there's something to be said about wanting to really reach out and find new ways to impact the world around you.
You have to. I mean, you have
absolutely.
to. And look, I mean, we're blessed. We've been given so much, in terms of the people who support the brand, and all the great things they do for us, and for those that are given, we're committed to give back, and that's in our DNA. I mean, our family, we're all in public service, be it as a first responder or law enforcement or fire. So there's definitely that sense of responsibility to give back.
Well, cheers to that.
Cheers. Thank you.
Wes, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Where can people come visit Angel's Envy?
We've got a beautiful distillery on Main Street in downtown Louisville. It's right across from Slugger Field. Do make a reservation, though, online, because we do sell out pretty quickly. So come and see us. If you'd like to interact with me, which I love to do, my Twitter and Instagram are KY Bourbon Maker. So please feel free to go there. And I love talking with friends and fans of the brand.
Having been to the distillery, I can confirm that it is a really good time.
Thank you.
You're very
welcome. It's a
welcome.
special place.
It is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Wes,
Thanks for having me, man.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. So next up, we're getting away from the bourbon for just a second. We're getting back to the music. Alice Wallace sitting down with me right now. How are you, Alice?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
Very happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. How was your set earlier?
It was so good.
Good.
Yeah, we had a little bit of an early set, but there was still a crowd out there.
That's
and
good to hear.
The day, it's just beautiful here in Louisville today. So
Now, where are you from?
I'm from California.
Okay, so have you ever been to Kentucky before now?
One time I played in Louisville, I don't know, 2 years ago, I think, but it was just a little house concert.
Okay.
So really, this is my first time really getting to experience it.
Louisville gig. Well, that's really cool, though. I'm happy to hear that you had a pretty good crowd then for that early in the day.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about your musical style, too.
Yeah, my stuff, it definitely falls in the country realm, but it leans a little more towards Americana, which, it's a little more influenced by sort of classic country and, blues and folk, and it kind of crosses genres a little bit. Like I grew up listening to a lot of Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton, and really that's what informs my music a lot more than anything else. So it's still country, but not quite as much the country that you'd hear on the radio these days.
I tell you, one of my favorite albums of all time is the Trio album.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was in a band for a little bit. We played that at a show. It was like a Trio tribute night, and it was easily one of my favorite musical experiences of all time.
I would love to do that sometime.
Just diving into that music gave me such an appreciation. I mean, not just for that group, but each of those individual women and the impact that they've had on the country music industry.
Yeah.
it still feels like it's showing through now. I mean, Dolly Parton's one of the biggest superstars in the entire world.
Oh, absolutely. I know. Well, I mean, that's the thing about really good music by really good performers. I mean, 3 of the best voices you could probably ever hear.
Yeah.
And so it holds up over the years, when it's that kind of quality. It doesn't really ever go out of style.
It's got to have a timeless quality to it.
Yeah.
For sure. And I like that. Is that kind of something that you maybe not intentionally aim for, but is that something that you kind of hope your music invokes, or that your listeners kind of feel that come across?
I definitely hope so. Really, when I sit down to write a song, I just try to write the best song that I can. And actually sometimes that means I don't write a song for 6 months because I'm like, nope. Is this good enough that Emmylou or Linda would have sang it? No? Okay. And I don't even know.
That's a high standard to
I
hold
know,
yourself
and I don't know
towards.
if I even ever reach it, but at least I aim for that, and I really do hope that it's the kind of music. It does kind of cross genres. It leans, towards country, but it's just music.
Yeah.
And I love doing it. I've loved doing it since I was 5 years old and was singing for every party my parents would throw, and they couldn't ever get me to shut up. And finally, it was just like, you should be on a stage somewhere.
Have you? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. That's about it.
You didn't want to embarrass yourself.
I don't have to keep
further?
talking about me singing and.
Well, I'll continue to ask you about yourself then. What's touring around the states been like for you? Has it been a pretty warm response so far?
Yeah, I put out a new album in January.
Congratulations.
On a label out of Los Angeles called Rebel Road Records, which is run by 3 great women who are like really trying to promote women in country and Americana music in Los Angeles. And I was the first artist they put out on their label. And I've been touring ever since. I do a lot through the Southwest and Texas, since I live over in California. So I kind of do a lot through, a lot more west of the Mississippi than east, but I'm really thrilled to get out over here too. And I'm actually planning a move to Nashville later this year, because I just feel like I need to be in Nashville.
That's where everybody goes,
I
man.
love California. I feel like it'll always be home, but I feel like I need to just immerse myself in the Nashville scene for a while too. So
what is the California lifestyle kind of offer to you in terms of songwriting? Because I feel like there's a very different vibe out in California that translates to some really interesting songwriting practices and just kind of outcomes as well.
Yeah. Well, there is something about being out there by the ocean. It's definitely a more relaxed kind of lifestyle. The weather's almost always perfect. It definitely, there's parts of me that's like, I need to live a place where there's like winter and struggle for a while to get some pain in my songs. But at the same time, I love California, and my new album ended up being a very California-based album. I've got my title track is called The Blue, and it's about, I was just kind of like imagining chasing this musical dream of mine, just kind of sailing off into the horizon after this thing that's just waiting for you out there, which there is kind of, it is kind of a land of possibility of sorts, being out there in LA and next to the water and around so much of the entertainment industry and all these things. So many people move to LA to make it in some sort of fashion, acting or singing or whatever it might be. And so it is a very inspiring place in a lot of ways.
I'm excited to hear then, having heard that, and the way you describe your music, having lived out in California, the way that Nashville is going to kind of, I imagine it will, to some capacity, transform the way that you are processing writing songs and the thought process that really goes into it. So hearing those two things really come together, I think is going to be super, super cool when the time comes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, I started touring full-time about 7 years ago. So I've been on the road for a while, and really my songwriting, just from touring so much, has changed immensely from where it was 7 years ago, because I'm constantly in new places and hearing stories that I just had never, thought of. I've got a story that I, on my new album about, and I'd heard this story in El Paso, Texas one night. This really heart-wrenching story, and I'm like, this needs to be a song. And, it's amazing what getting out of your bubble will do to just inspire you and help you see the world in different ways. And it's been a really rewarding experience to get to spend so much time on the road that way.
For sure. So before you came over, I just had this moment where I was like, there are a lot of really killer women acts at Hometown Rising. I mean, you can kind of hear it in the background of the recording, but we're listening to Lindsay L., who is up on stage right now, too, who's just apparently a killer guitar player. Claire Dunn's running around here, too, somewhere. She's fantastic as well. How do you see yourself fitting not just into, the country music scene, but, maybe a little bit more specifically, female country artists as well? How has that kind of affected the way that you've approached being a country artist?
Yeah, I will say that traditionally women have had a harder time in country music than men have, When it comes to radio airplay, we get a tiny percentage compared to men, and it is a little bit of a fight sometimes, I think. And I was really happy to see that there are quite a few women on the bill here, because there's certain festivals where that is not the case. And and I feel like people are finally kind of seeing that, and the tide is turning a little bit, and realizing that that women can draw just as much to festivals, and they can write just as good of a song as a man can, and they deserve just as much airplay. And it's just a matter of making the industry realize that by showing them that we can do it and them giving us a chance. So, as a woman, I feel like we try to stick together as much as we can. And, I do operate a little more in the Americana sphere than I do in the country one.
Sure.
And I will say that Americana is a lot more inviting to women.
I get on board with
than
that.
Country. I was just actually, before I came here, I was in Nashville for the Americana Music Festival, and at the awards, I think it was every artist in the best emerging artist category was a woman. And which was amazing to see.
So cool.
They got Yola and geez, who was in that category? I think Amanda Shires was last year. Geez, I was just there, and now my brain is already fried. I've had too much whiskey today. No, I haven't really. It's early.
I would venture to say we haven't had enough.
I know. Trying to pace myself. It's going to be a long day out here.
There you go. Yeah, Tim McGraw hasn't even played yet.
I know. But yeah, I think, as women, we do have to fight a little more for our chance. But I think, we're starting to get heard a little bit more. And I do think it's important as women to tell our stories through songs. And I do that in a lot of my songs. It's like, songs are a great way to help people see things in a new way.
For sure.
I feel like historically, songs have changed the course of public opinion. Sometimes they move with different political changes, social changes. Songs are a big driving force, and I think that's an important thing to recognize.
I totally agree. Alice, congratulations. Best of luck to you.
Well, thank you so much for having me today.
You're very welcome. Cheers.
This isn't film, right?
No. No, it's
cool,
just audio. Don't worry about it.
I get to be cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Ain't got to worry about it.
Look, we normally just sit around and drink bourbon and talk.
I love it.
So that's as casual as it gets.
Where's our bourbon?
Right? I don't...
Give me a hard time. I'm kidding.
I've got some Angel's Envy in here somewhere.
You good.
It was gifted to me. But yeah, Claire Dunn.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So when I was going through the list of folks who were playing at Hometown Rising, I'm looking everybody up, and I was like, Claire Dunn, I don't know that name.
Oh man.
And I put you into YouTube.
Yeah.
Found out that you were just an incredible guitar player.
Aww.
I was like, holy crap, this is so
it.
good. I mean, you're a fantastic songwriter as well, too.
Thank
But tell everybody a little bit about yourself, about your background in music, too, and what are some of your influences with you as well?
So I grew up on a small farm and ranch in southeast Colorado near Oklahoma. And most of my influences came from the process of driving tractor growing up.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of country and a lot of classic rock, and so, growing up, those were just mainly the two kinds of stations we had to choose from. And so I would either, I'd be driving tractor, and it really just depended on what field you were as to which station you could tune in.
Right.
You drive down the row and you get one station going one way and lose it and turn around and come back and you get the other station for a little bit. So it was crazy.
Makes no sense, but...
Yeah, some of my biggest influences, are everyone from like Dwight Yoakam and George Strait and Waylon Jennings to Rolling Stones, Tina Turner, Beyonce,
Dang.
Whitney Houston. And yeah, I got my start really with college. I didn't start playing guitar till I moved for college.
Yeah.
So I haven't been playing that long, but I sure try.
You definitely have that big, open, dynamic range to your
thanks.
voice. Though. You're very welcome. But just listening to you, I mean, it kind of has that real soulful punch to it, which I think pairs so nicely with your style of music. That real kind of like nitty gritty, kind of like down to earth little, kind of thing that you have
Thank
going
you.
on. But you just came out with a new song,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. It's
Yeah.
called My Love, and actually I love that I'm getting to do this because it's like in the chorus, it's like, my love is a fire you can't water down. It burns like a bourbon when you come around.
Ooh, heck
Although
yes.
I know bourbon technically doesn't burn, but to a musician it does. It has that same feeling of burning in a good way.
It can still burn.
Well, and I think love burns a little bit, but you don't think of love burning in a bad way.
True.
Bourbon burns in a good way to me.
That does.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, it just came out, and then we're doing a really special remix. Actually, speaking of Beyonce, with one of her proteges.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We went to Houston. She was a feature. She did a feature on My Love. We did a remix. We went to Houston, shot a video. So we're really excited about that. That'll be coming out in the next couple weeks.
Talk to about your Live Your Passion campaign, too.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I think is really interesting and cool.
Yeah, I think that, for me it's important. I do get to live my passion every single day.
Amen.
And I try to encourage all my fans that, even if you don't get to live your passion right now and you want to start taking baby steps, just take a baby step every day.
Absolutely.
Towards it. And I think that we're all happier human beings when we're getting to do that. Obviously not, we don't all get to, but, I just always want to encourage everybody to be, take a small step every day towards that. And, like people making bourbon and drinking bourbon, I think that it's a very passionate thing, and there's nothing to be ashamed of about whatever you're passionate about. Don't be afraid to be passionate.
To that point, this show started out real small.
That's awesome.
Real tiny, and we're now almost 2 years in, 4 weeks away from our 100th episode.
Congrats.
And thank you very much.
Huge.
But it's just I can really truly attest to that it is hard work.
Yeah.
But the hard work really does pay off.
Yeah.
And it's 100% worth it. So I like to hear that same kind of message continually preached and continually talked about with other people, because I think it is important to chase your passions and not be afraid. Yeah, it is scary at first, but I mean, you should have a little bit of fear.
Absolutely.
In loving what you do.
Well, someone told me if your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough.
Amen. I feel that. I feel that on a real deep emotional level.
Me
I mean,
too.
like that is, I think, at its core, what chasing your passions and chasing your dreams
Absolutely.
is about.
It's a scary thing. It's not easy. And it's a hustle and a daily grind, and you just aren't going to get there. You may get there quickly, you may not. I think
Absolutely.
There's some percentage that, the people who have overnight success, it's probably less than 1%. And
yeah, for sure.
the people who've been duking it out for 10 years in the dark, their overnight success was 10 years in the making, So it's just, you just got to keep rolling. And life, another thing I think it's important to be going towards your passion until you die, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Keep you going.
Yeah. You got to have something to wake up for in the morning, right?
That's right.
I mean, whether it's bourbon or music or
absolutely.
whatever. Yeah. So clearly you have some kind of experience with drinking bourbon.
No, not at all.
All right, what's the bourbon that burns then for you?
Oh man, in the best way. I just got introduced over with Fred to Brooks. Was that right, Matt? Was it Brooks? My tour manager's fired. He wasn't taking notes. And it was a new bourbon, I'll admit. It was a new bourbon to me. But I got some education, and he did a whole palate thing, whatever. And anyway, so yeah.
It's intense, right?
Yeah, it was awesome.
I mean, that's our whole spiel is like, how do you experience it and everything. And I think
I loved it.
Yeah.
It's so good. Like, I hadn't had that one, and that's a really great one.
I'll have to try that then.
Yeah.
We do
What's your favorite?
Oh my gosh, here we go.
Let's hear it. Educate me.
So I always say that for me, it's like there's a couple different categories that I put them into. So like my daily drinker, like the one where I just kind of like, I'm not really thinking about it a whole lot. You know, it's just kind of like my everyday sipper.
Yep.
It's just Turkey 101.
Oh, hey.
Cheap, high proof, usually about 8 years old.
Nice.
And it tastes good. I mean, if it didn't taste good, but it had all those things, it wouldn't be worth it, right? But it has like a really well-rounded flavor profile to it.
I love that.
But like, there's so many different bourbons all across the spectrum.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, from all the way down at 80 proof to up to 145.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's the burn right there.
Yes.
That's the burn is once you get up that high. But it's baby steps, too.
Yeah.
But I'm an equal opportunity bourbon drinker.
I'll tell you, I got a real education in bourbon about 2 years ago, I think it was, or maybe last year, I don't remember, where we played a bourbon master distiller fest. It was like a private show for all the master distillers in Kentucky from all the bourbons. Like, we're talking Turkey, Four Roses. Oh, God. Why am I blanking? Was Knob Creek there? I don't remember. But, I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And, like, they each gave me, it was me and I don't remember who else, but they gave us each a bottle of, like, their best bourbon. So I took home, like, literally 18 bourbons.
That is amazing.
And, like, I got a lot of education there, too. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Now my tour manager's trying to get not fired. I'm kidding. He's like, whatever, girl, you ain't gonna fire me. You lying. You liar.
But that's what I love about bourbon, though, is just that, you know, I even feel, and I think I always will feel like I'm constantly learning new things
Really?
about it. You know? I mean,
How long
like,
have you been a bourbon drinker?
4 or 5
How
years.
many years deep are you?
Well, okay, here's the thing. So, honestly, I did not start drinking until I was about 20.
Nice.
Yeah. Like,
That's a good responsible age. You're like an old soul.
Yeah.
For a 20-year-old to be drinking bourbon, I wasn't thinking about bourbon when I was 20.
I mean,
I was thinking about anything else.
See, that's the thing is I was always like, if I'm going to drink, it's going to be to enjoy it. It's not going to be like to, you know, go crazy, get hammered or whatever.
Yep.
And so, like, that's kind of why I gravitated towards bourbon, is that it's like, it's got that sense of it's meant to be enjoyed.
Yep.
Like, you're supposed to really kind of take your time with it
Yeah.
and everything. So
Go slow.
Yeah, exactly. So
I can appreciate that.
Having those two kind of seemingly mutual points of view, it just kind of worked out well together. And then once I really started drinking bourbon, I was like, I like this stuff a lot. And so, you know, I really fell down the rabbit hole probably about 3 years ago.
Wow.
And then the podcast kind of started as a result. Wait, who's doing the interviewing here? Did you?
Who's doing the interviewing here?
I feel like you flipped it on me and started doing the interviewing.
Sorry.
Like I started.
I seriously like to know. I enjoy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy.
Sorry.
I'm happy to share. No. It's all about sharing the bourbon love. It totally is about sharing the bourbon love.
Wait, who's doing the interviewing here? I'm like, I don't know. A lot of people are doing interviews in here, but I think you are.
Yeah, something like that. Well, how about this? Let's have a drink together later.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
'Kay.
for sure. Make it happen.
Deal.
Claire, thank you so much for
Thank
sitting
you
down
for
with
having me. I appreciate it. It was
It's
an
been a lot
honor.
of fun. Thank you. I've been looking forward to this all day. Raylan Nelson, the granddaughter of freaking Willie Nelson. Raylan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
He's kind of the coolest person that ever walked
He's pretty
on
legit.
the planet.
He's
I mean,
pretty
next to
legit.
Jesus, he's probably the coolest one.
Okay, fair enough. JB's also with us.
He's all right.
Yes.
JB? You
I'm
think
the
it's-
third coolest person that's ever walked.
That's
I
probably
don't know.
true.
I might have something on Jesus.
It's
No?
the hair.
Yeah.
It's definitely the hair.
I'm often mistaken for Jesus. Because we all know he had long blonde hair and
Jesus-
blue eyes.
You see
blonde
those
curly hair.
Malibu Jesus. I think.
Those people that, you know, they've got the end is nigh signs.
Yes.
They just fall over when they see you. It's like, that's
Exactly.
true. He's here. He's coming.
I'm back, boys. I'm back.
Anyway, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you guys.
Thanks for having us.
This is a real treat. This has been something that I've been looking forward to really all day, too. Obviously, it's hard not to talk about your grandfather, but I don't want to
No.
talk too much
It's
about
okay,
him
we can talk
because,
about him.
well, but you are a separate entity from your grandfather.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him.
Exactly,
so.
but you've done your own thing. You've made your own music. You know, you're making your own way.
Yeah.
And it's not. I don't feel like you are riding the coattails. I feel like you're doing everything right to establish yourself, and I totally applaud that. But like, what is some of the aside from you know, maybe the obvious of Grandpa Willie. What do you call him?
Papa Willie.
Papa Willie. Okay, great. Okay, aside from Papa Willie, what are some of the influences that go into your songwriting and the creation of your
I really
music?
like Loretta Lynn, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, my grandpa and my great aunt Bobby, who plays with him, they're my main influences. I've seen them doing it my whole life and wanted to do that. But other than that, I love Loretta Lynn, and Joan Jett is a big influence now, and of course all the Dolly, you know.
Everybody's been saying Dolly today, and I love it.
She's a badass.
You can't not say Dolly if you're playing country
Her
music.
voice is so pure, and I mean, she's a very talented songwriter, and she's not afraid to be herself. She doesn't care what
Exactly.
anyone thinks, and there is
Exactly.
something so awesome about
There's
that.
something very pure about her, just in general as a person. I mean,
Yeah.
she is 100% authentic. I feel like in everything that she does. So it's hard not to put her up.
Which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy to be so made up and so, you know, wig, makeup, everything, but it's very authentic to
Yeah,
Dolly.
genuine and
Yeah.
real.
It's herself.
I think that's what she said, like the whores in her town were her heroes
Well,
growing up.
she mocked her look after the whore
The
in her
local town.
Yeah. It was like after someone's like, she looks like a hooker, and she's like, well, yeah, I know, because I modeled my look after the hooker in town. Of course I do.
And she owns that.
She
Yeah.
does.
She makes that her own. That's awesome. So talk a little bit too about what it was about Hometown Rising that made you want to come here and you know.
I feel so honored to
this.
be here with all
Yeah?
these big names. Yeah, there's Tim McGraw and Luke Bryan and Little Big Town. You know,
Yeah.
like I've listened to these guys since I was a little girl. So I feel super honored to be put in this festival with them. You know, and it looks good on social media for us. You know, we
Yeah, it does.
we're an independent band. You know, and
Yeah.
it's hard for independent bands to get put on these types of things. And lucky for us, our friend Del Williams, he hooked us up, and I'm just lucky somebody threw me a bone, you know, just happened to hear the music and liked it and wanted other people to hear it too,
Yeah,
you know,
for
because
sure.
it's not traditional country, it's not new country at all.
Yeah.
JB's background is rock, and mine, of course, is traditional country. So then when we got together, him and I started writing these songs, so it's a hybrid of both, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like Loretta Lynn and Cheap Trick or the Ramones or something.
Is that kind of where your guitar playing lies
Oh,
too? Is in the-
totally. I
yeah.
grew up on punk rock, so, you know.
There you go.
It's when we started this, I remember thinking, you know, in Nashville, there's just players and shredders, lead guitar, all these country
Yeah.
licks going on. But kind of my approach is like, well, everybody's just blasting leads and doing all this stuff. It's like, let's keep it to 2.5, 3-minute songs, just like the Ramones. And, you know, very few people, for most bands, are there to hear some guy rip an amazing lead or anything.
It's true.
So, we both like melody. I like hard edge, loud guitars. And as strange as it sounds, I think our fascination with melody and hooks that's our common ground when we're writing.
Well, there aren't a whole lot of bands that have heavy guitar and then ukulele.
Yes.
That's true.
Okay, so when I met JB, he had just done, with his buddy Tom Littlefield, they had done a tribute album for The Replacements. And it was done
That's awesome.
all on ukuleles. You got to check it out.
That's wild.
It's called Bright Littlefield. But he had all these ukuleles sitting around the studio, and I picked one up, and I got him to show me some chords. And if you play guitar a little, you can learn to play ukulele in like 5 minutes, apparently.
Absolutely.
So he taught me that, and then I was like, hey, I want to front the band with this ukulele. What do you think? And he's like, well, we're going to have to find a big amp to plug it into to make it
as long as we can
loud.
plug it in, we'll be good, which is exactly what we did.
But I can move and not think
for
so
sure,
much about
yeah.
playing, you know?
Yeah.
It's really easy to play.
I want to talk too about you mentioned that you're an independent band, and that
Up until recently, we've done everything ourselves.
Yeah,
JB,
yeah.
luckily I have him, you know, it's nice to have somebody to take some
Sure.
of the slack. And we've done everything ourselves up until this album. We've got a publicist to help us promote this next one.
Well, one of the things that I think kind of rings true about that is, I look you guys up, before sending out emails and everything with interest, and I can't remember the song, but at the beginning of the video, you guys are asking everybody to hold their phones up and record it from different angles and send it in so that you can put it all together. That just screams independent artist. But still with that passion and wanting to make it you know, in a really kind of non-traditional sense. I just something about that just rung so true, and I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How many people have the audacity to be like, yeah, we just don't want to have to do all the work
Yeah, and
for
I think that's the biggest takeaway from the punk rock thing is that it's like, you know, we're going to have to do this on our own.
Yeah.
You know, the making of the music on your own is a blast, the making of the videos. Now, when it comes to going and booking shows and being your own publicist and all that, management, all that, it kind of gets to be a drag.
Daunting
but
task.
you still have complete control over whatever you do.
Absolutely.
So whatever you put out, if you're embarrassed of it, that's on you. But if you're working, you know, I've had plenty of friends that have done the label deal, and it comes out, and you can almost hear it in their voice, almost making excuses for, well, you know, we had this other producer come in, and you kind of nod your head knowingly going, I understand you insert yourself into the machine, and that's just part of it, you know? So we've been trying to fiercely hold on to at least the creative aspect, just because, you know, you don't want to be embarrassed of your art.
Yeah, we've had meetings with Music Row people, and they tend to want us to soften the edges or go a more solo artist route, which I don't want to do. I want to be a band, and we want to sound like we sound. I want them to be them and me to be me and us to do what we do, and that, you know, I don't want to venture from that. And of course, Music Row has a machine that they like to put everyone through.
Yes, they do.
I think at some point we just looked at each other and like, you know what? If you listen to country radio, we don't really sound like any of us. So what are we even doing
Why are we
trying
trying
to
this?
knock on these people's doors? And they weren't hunting us down either.
And
so,
I mean,
you know.
if it's working for you, if you're happy with the product, why not continue doing something
Exactly.
Yeah.
that is A, true to your own craft, and B, you can go to bed happy with. You can wake up happy with. I was talking with Claire Dunn earlier about chasing your passions.
Yeah.
You know, and how that's something that, you know, should be a daily point of interest or goal.
And what do you call a passion? You know, it's like what you wake up and you can't stop thinking about.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Even though you're having to do all this stuff day-to-day life so that we can live, that thing that's in the back that's constantly there. What is that? And that is your passion, you know?
Absolutely.
Plus, and I think what history has shown that if you do your own thing completely independent and make a splash, then the people will come and they'll pay you to do your thing, i.e. Sturgill Simpson, you
For
know?
sure.
Sturgill
Oh,
did
for
his own
sure.
thing, kind of
Papa Willie.
gave the industry the finger. It's like, I'm going to do, your grandpa for sure way back. And now Sturgill's got like an industrial record out with anime for every song. And he literally, I've heard him on podcasts talking. He's like, eventually I won't make enough money for the label to gain their investment back. Then they'll dump me. But the only reason I'm on a label is because they give me money, I deliver them a record, and that's our deal.
Yeah.
Period. You want a record, they buy it, and I give it to them. So, I mean, if you can make enough splash, eventually somebody will pay you to do it, if you're lucky. And
Yeah.
if not, at least you're never going to be embarrassed of the stuff that's out there in the zeitgeist.
And I'm having a really good time playing and singing our stuff, and it seems to be going pretty well. People seem to like it, you know?
Yeah.
And then, or you just hate it, and you go away, you know?
Which is cool, too.
What do you guys find more joy in? Going into the
People
studio
hating
or
it.
playing the?
Oh.
No. No.
messing with you.
I mean, do you find more joy in going into the studio and recording or doing the live shows?
So to save money, we go to a studio to do drums, and then we go to JB's studio in his backyard. We live in Nashville, so everybody's got a studio, right? So he's got a small studio in his backyard, and we do mostly everything there.
Yeah.
So, like, hanging out with him and doing it there is a lot of fun,
Sure,
you know?
yeah.
It doesn't feel like going into a studio, because I've done that before.
And you're not necessarily on the clock and feeling all the pressure of it, like,
No.
shit, this is costing me $100.
Right.
This, what we're trying to figure out is a G or a
This is
C.
my 45th take on trying to
Yeah.
hit this note, and it's not coming out right. You know, he lets me do it 150 times
we'll
if
fix
I
it in
want to.
post.
You know,
And probably the honest answer is, if we're in the studio recording a bunch, then we really like going out and playing. And if we've been out
Sure.
playing a bunch and haven't recorded in a while, we really want to get back to recording. So it's, it's
because
great.
you want to play new songs
Yeah,
too. You know,
exactly.
Well, and I'm sure that, you know, there is a nice balance between the two, and it does kind of wind up feeding off of each other in some capacity, for sure.
I think I'm
for
itching
sure.
to get back in and record
Yeah.
some stuff, which was why
we
that
haven't
was my
recorded
answer.
in a while, so.
But
yeah.
but I do. I think the best thing we bring to the table is our live show. You know, JB and I have come up with like a stand-up comedy duo
It's
bit
sort of-
on accident, and you know. So if this fails, then we could go into stand-up comedy.
Well, what would give a little bit of a taste of the stand-up?
Okay, so like I love beer. Do you love beer?
I love beer.
Yeah. Have you ever taken a swim in it? Because I did.
No.
Yeah, but it's gross. I don't recommend it. I decided it was just once in a blue moon.
Wah, 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 wah. Wow. Yeah, there's a little
Thank
taste.
you. Thank you.
There we. Okay. Well.
That
was good. That was good.
She has written 2 jokes, so we're saying
Yeah,
that
there's 2.
by like 2045, we should have the first 15 minutes down. Yeah.
I'm working on it.
We can middle by then, yeah.
But I want to like test those out with people to see if I'm going down the right path of if that's the way I want to go with
Maybe
it.
you missed your calling.
I do have my hair dye one, remember? I haven't pulled that one out very much.
Well, you're still working on that, I think.
Maybe I'll give that one to you the next time we get to chat because
Okay,
I
there we
haven't
go.
fine-tuned it yet.
There we go. One more question, we'll let you get out of here. Have you ever gotten to play Trigger?
Yeah.
Have you really?
I really have.
Oh, it's so cool.
I was 14 years old, and I had just learned to play guitar. He sent me a guitar, and we were there on the bus, and he handed it to me, and he's like, "Play me something you've been playing." And when Papa Willie hands you his guitar to play it, and you're like, you have to play something. So the one that I had practiced really hard and learned, because I just loved to sing the song, was Keith Whitley, or it's actually Alison Krauss's version of Keith Whitley's song, You Say It Best When You Say Nothing at All.
Yes.
And my mom had always really loved that song, and her and my stepdad would dance to it in the kitchen when I would play it on guitar. So because of that, I had played it enough to where I felt comfortable doing that one in front of my grandpa at 14 years old. So I did it, and he listened to the whole thing and smiled, and then he taught me some stuff. You know, he sat down and showed me some stuff on the guitar. So yeah, that's a big moment for me, for sure. But that was the only time I've ever touched the thing, you know?
When the movie of your life is made,
that moment has to be in it.
That moment is
And I was
pivotal.
wearing this I was wearing a leopard print skirt and a black shirt. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. My mom had probably like 20 pictures, and this is before cell phone.
Yeah.
So it was, we have like.
Instamatic cameras.
Yeah.
Or
you know,
digital, I
what,
guess,
what do we call those? Just cameras. But,
Cameras?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Disposable
Point and shoot.
camera-looking
Disposable
things.
cameras, there we go.
I'm making a snap gesture with my finger right now. But anyway, there was a bunch of them of that moment, you know. So luckily,
So cool.
yeah, I'm glad that happened.
Braylon, JB, thank you guys so
Thanks
much
for
for
having
sitting down.
me.
This has been a real treat.
It's been fun.
Yeah. Cheers, yo.
Cheers.
So I figured we'd have one where we kind of bring it back around to the whiskey a little bit, and I think that this is a good whiskey to talk about. It's one that not a whole lot of people know about.
That's true.
Now, I'm gonna say something here, and you're gonna go, really? And I'm gonna go, not what you think, but I am sitting down with Michael Myers.
On Saturday the 14th.
Yeah. Oh man, missed it by one day. 291 Colorado Whiskey Distillery.
That's right.
Welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Thank you for having
And
me.
Philip's here as
and
well.
Philip.
Thank you. I'll just interject.
As he sees fit. Michael, you've got a really rich background that's not just rooted in whiskey.
That is true.
You were also a fashion photographer.
I was
as well.
in New York.
So start talking a little bit about that, because I'm a graphic designer by trade, so art is in my background and everything, and I find that fascinating. I'd like to hear some of how you kind of got into that, and how that was kind of one of your initial passions and everything too.
Yeah, so I picked up a camera when I was 15, was given a camera, and never looked back. Shot football games, basketball games, shot some fashion stuff.
Right.
Then went to Savannah College of Art and Design, graduated with a photography degree, and part of 291 comes from there, so I'll fill that in right now. But 291 was my dorm room in college.
Oh, okay.
And 291, in that dorm room, I learned that Alfred Stieglitz had the very first photo gallery ever in New York, or ever in the world, Gallery 291, in around 1907. And so I was meant to be a photographer. Went on to be a photographer, worked in LA after college, and then moved to New York. I shot for Mademoiselle, Esquire, GQ, Estee Lauder, Tiffany & Company, Forbes, everybody. And had a really great career. Shot Angelina Jolie when she was 15, and the Olsen twins were some of my last clients.
I'm not entirely sure how to follow that up.
And now I make whiskey.
Well, yeah, but like that in and of itself is just such a laundry list of awesome things, of awesome clients that you get to work with, and I'm sure that that allowed you to see and experience parts of the world, parts of life that you would have really not have been able to get to do otherwise.
Yeah, it definitely did. Traveled a lot with my photography. I was born and raised in Alpharetta, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, and spent my summers in California. My mom lived out there in LA area, and so I had a little LA influence growing up. And then, the fashion world was amazing. Had just incredible times meeting and building teams to take photos.
That's so cool. But of course, you are here because of 291.
I am here because of 291. I am here because of 9/11.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was a photographer in New York. I lived on Warren and West Side Highway, and that's about 3 blocks from the World Trade Center. And I was on Greenwich and Duane when the first plane flew over.
Wow.
So saw it all. Saw everything that day with my children. I have 2 boys that were 4 and 5 then, and my wife at the time. And it was a crazy day. So
that's putting it very, very lightly.
Yeah, it was a crazy day.
Yeah. So what about 9/11 inspired 291?
So we couldn't get back into our apartment, so we moved to Colorado where my wife's parents lived, and we lived there for 9 months. And during those 9 months, I commuted back to New York for photography, and we moved back to New York. A couple of years wasn't good, so we moved back to Colorado, and I commuted. And for about 4 years, and then I looked at some other stuff, some TV and movie stuff, and did a Vanity Fair shoot in August 2010, and on the flight back, read an article about the guy that created Hendrick's Gin and Sailor Jerry. Thought I could brand some whiskey. Came back, talked to some people. Somebody said, "Why don't you try and make it?" I'm like, "They make it in the woods of Georgia. It can't be that hard."
And then he regretted those words every day since.
Yeah, well, it's not that easy to make whiskey.
No, it's absolutely not that easy. But the fact that you had the gusto for it and just the sheer motivation
and
to take
stupidity.
that on. Well,
no, I'm kidding.
Your words, not mine. I'm just kidding.
I love it.
You can quote him.
Do you want me to edit that out as the real question?
No, not at all. Never.
So you started with your bourbon, correct?
I
started with
did.
the rye.
So I love rye. Before
Same.
I made whiskey, I loved Thomas Handy. That was the rye that I really love.
If you're gonna love a rye whiskey, you may as well love one of the best in the field. So good for you. Yeah.
And but I did. I started with bourbon because I had 300 square feet space. I had a DSP, distilled spirit plant permit, DSP CO 15023. So the 23rd in Colorado. Wow. And in that 300 square foot space, and I got a bag of Grant corn from a brewer friend, and went down to the homebrew shop and got some malt rye. And I made my first mash, and to this day, my bourbon is that recipe, except for a very slight change, and that's 19% malt rye. It was 20, it went to 19, and it's 1% malt barley. But
just for the enzymes.
Yeah. And a little flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my rye was the next recipe I made, and my rye is 61% malt rye, 39% corn.
Well, the rye's the showstopper here.
Yes, it's what I set out to make. I set out to make a Western whiskey, and I love rye, and I wanted something big, bold, and beautiful like the state of Colorado. I mean, I'm making Colorado whiskey. It better be good whiskey.
Sure.
And big.
So let's talk, too, about the accolades behind 291 rye whiskey.
Yeah. So 2018 Whiskey Magazine gave me the world's best rye title. which is amazing.
That is fantastic.
So in 2016, we presented for the very first time ever to Whiskey Magazine, and they gave me America's Best Rye. And there were 2 categories. I won one, and Pikesville won the other, and Pikesville won Worlds that year. So I almost won Worlds, and the first time presented.
That's not bad for your first time showing.
Not bad at all. We've won double gold out of San Francisco, Denver, New York. Jim Murray,
yes,
barrel number 2 of that rye whiskey, literally a year after making whiskey. And I had never brewed beer or distilled until I started this. September 11, 2011 was my very first finished distillation.
Really?
So, yeah. So Jim Murray gave me barrel number 2, 94 points.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, this is really happening, isn't it? 291 has 7 liquid golds from Jim Murray, 6 different recipes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
My goodness, you really have shown up and shown out.
Yeah.
At this point, and I mean that is just incredible.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's interesting because as a photographer, I worked hard to be a photographer and break in and all that. And there were times where I heard about somebody showing a Polaroid and getting a big job, and I'm like, what? They only had a Polaroid? I got all these beautiful pictures. And so when I came to whiskey, I was like, I'm going to be the dude that shows up with the Polaroid.
Yeah. So do you photograph all your whiskey as well?
I don't. It's too close.
Oh, man.
It's too hard. I mean,
I'm going to interject. He has an iPhone. That's what he says.
Yeah, people ask me if I shoot, and I have an iPhone, and it looks like a camera. You know.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it definitely does. So what's next for 291? What's the future look like?
So the future is happening right now. So we have some allocated whiskeys that are coming out, that come out every year. So we have High Rye, which is a high rye bourbon, comes out October 5th. We have Bad Guy, which is a 4-grain wheated bourbon that comes out. Jim Murray gave it 95.5 points, barrel number 1.
Goodness gracious.
It's a really good bourbon. And then we are moving into new states. So we are in Colorado, self-distributed. We opened California a few years ago, a little at a time. We're blowing California up bigger. We just opened Kentucky on Friday. We are in 27 Kroger stores in Kentucky. We are here at Hometown Rising, serving our whiskey in Kentucky, and we are opening Texas. We just got a PO last week to ship a pallet and a half there.
That's great. Man.
So
all 3 major markets in Texas.
That's really incredible.
Yeah.
Such rapid growth in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, but still slow. We make all our own whiskey from scratch, so it's cash intensive. It's got to sit in the barrel, all that. So we can't open too many states too quickly, or we won't have whiskey.
Absolutely. Michael, I wish you all the best.
Harry, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sitting down. It's been a pleasure.
I truly appreciate it.
And I cannot wait to try 291.
Well, come on to the Beyond Bar and have some.
I'll do that.
All right,
man. Cheers. Appreciate it.
Bye.
So this is really cool. I've got the Sisterhood band.
Yes.
It's Alyssa and Ruby.
Yeah,
Welcome,
man.
guys.
Thank
so
you.
happy to have you
Thanks
all
for
here.
having us.
Thank you.
So there's something really interesting about this that we're going to have to touch on here. It says here that you made guest appearances at Rod Stewart's Las Vegas show. How did that come about?
I know a guy that knows a guy that knows Rod Stewart, oddly enough. So
How did those connections come about?
it's really, it's a long story. I don't know if you guys want to hear it. It's about 32 years worth of a story. So no, Rod Stewart's my father, and I am so proud of him. And we got to open for him. That was our first really debut tour.
Yeah.
So it was fun, and he really loves us and supports us. And Alyssa's parents we've played with a few times as well, and I mean their harmonies are insane. I'm just such a great band, Bailey and the Boys. So
we would have been called the Offspring, but that band name was already taken. So.
Offsprung.
The Offsprung.
Is Offsprings?
Offspring.
Grammatically correct?
I like
Is that grammatically correct?
Because it's 2 of us. Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that real
I love
country
that.
or what? Offsprings?
They're the offsprings of some rock and roll and country.
Offspring.
You know, that's
The Offspring.
sounds right to me.
No,
Yeah, a
it is
little
the
bit country
Offsprings.
and-
I'm pretty sure you're right. right.
Cool.
That is correct.
That's gonna be
Grammatically
our,
correct.
That's going to be
Okay.
our first record.
The Offspring.
Oh, there
The
you go.
Offsprings.
There you go. So how long have you all been playing together?
We've been in a band for about 3 years. We've been
Yeah.
friends for about 4-ish.
I thought it was 5.
We met like in December of 2015, and we became friends for like a few months, and then
Yeah.
we started the band for fun, and honestly, just like didn't think anything was gonna happen, and
yeah.
it just
And it
kind of
did.
took off.
It did. It
And here
did
we
happen.
are at
Now
the
we're signed to
Hometown
Sony
Rising
Records.
Festival.
I cannot imagine that you guys were just like, yeah, we'll see what happens with the amount of talent that's just like running through your veins. I mean,
thank
like,
you.
come on,
That's
you
so
guys,
sweet
aren't
of you.
giving
Thank you.
you're not giving yourselves enough credit.
Well, we
Very
met through
honest.
mutual friends, very like by chance.
I was about to ask
Yeah.
how that friendship.
Yeah, we
kinda
completely met
started.
through mutual friends. Ruby was visiting Nashville writing with a friend of ours, and he brought her over to my house one night for me to meet her. And honestly, she walked in the door, and I was like, I feel like I know you. How have we met?
It's so weird because she said 4 years, and I feel like I've known her for centuries.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can read what she's going to say next before she says it.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
weird.
How does that conversation come up though?
What do you mean? Like,
Oh
yeah, like how you know people like that?
Well, no, more of the oh, I'm Rod Stewart's daughter.
It doesn't
conversation.
really come up unless
It
we're in
just
an
happens.
interview.
I mean, no. My point is like when you're beginning your friendship,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like that has to happen organically.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
the thing is,
Yeah.
what's weird is that like who we met through, my ex-boyfriend was in a band called Tyler Bryant the Shakedown, and his name was Graham Whitford, and his dad is in Aerosmith, and it's like
duh.
Brad
Yeah.
Whitford. So it's
Yeah.
like it's really strange. I feel like all the Offspring kind of find each other because it's
Yeah.
a very odd way to grow up, and so. When you meet each
Yeah.
other that are like you're like kindred spirits because you're
Yeah.
able to talk about
Yeah,
being
you
on the
can.
road as a child.
Road
you know?
stories and like kid tour stories are very particular for sure. Like I used to surf on the road cases backstage, and she
Yeah.
did the same
That's so
thing.
cool.
Yeah.
So literally, you have like a stadium that's your home for the night, or kind of a playground, which is
Yeah.
cool. So it's different.
I feel like you guys need like a Facebook group.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
man.
rock
You want
and
to
roll,
start it?
Rock and roll
Offsprings?
Offsprings.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no connections to it, but
Offsprings?
I'll
Yeah.
just find you guys and invite everybody and just be like curator of like,
There
hey,
you
let's
go.
civil conversation. You know,
Yeah,
we're
to
not
start
talking about
this.
we're not going to talk about bad trip stories or anything, but like it's all about the
Yeah.
community and everything.
Yeah, of
But,
course.
yeah. So let's talk more about the music.
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the common ground that you guys kind of found between each other that led you to a cohesive writing style? What
Man.
was it that worked?
Well, I think that like both of our backgrounds coming together sonically for me, that's what the sisterhood sounds like. You know, I grew up in rock and roll and Alyssa grew up in country. But on like an emotional level, I've never felt so open in a writing experience
Yeah.
other than with Alyssa. You know, a lot of my life I've written songs with like friends, but I haven't gone to like, songwrites, and
Right.
and Alyssa understood me and I understood her, and everything came out really naturally, and I think it's based off of honesty, I would say.
And we write everything about true experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, everything we've gone through. We're just
Yeah.
finishing a record. It's our first debut album on Sony Records.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is
Thank you.
amazing.
And we're
We're
producing it too.
We're producing it
gosh.
together.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
You're going all in
What's,
right at the
what's
beginning.
crazy about the story between Ruby and I is that like it's an accidental band. It's an accidental
That
like
band name was also taken.
we literally met accidentally and like became besties, and we're like, oh, maybe we should start a band. Like, this is fun. And started getting like a ton of gigs where
Yeah.
we were like, can you come to Australia and play the main stage at CMC? We're like, sure, we only have 4 songs, but we'll have 10 by then. And then
figure
it
it
was
out.
like, Rod was like, all right, you guys want to see if you really want to be in a band? How about you tour with me and open my stadium tour? We were like, what? So we toured with him.
Did you hear that? It was just casual, very.
Yeah.
Rod was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
what are you up to?"
Then what's crazy is that like in the country community, we've just been welcomed with open arms. My parents are in a
Yeah.
band called Bailey and the Boys,
Yes.
and they were on RCA Records. And what's strange is that the person that is now the head of Sony Records Nashville, Randy Goodman, used to work my parents' records back on RCA days. So it's
That's
a really
Nashville for
weird,
ya.
it's a
That's
really
insane.
weird magical occurrence that we're even here talking to you in this Is Your Bourbon podcast, because I don't even know how we started this band, but I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we did.
This is my Bourbon podcast.
But so the music is
Oh,
kind of
okay.
accidental
So we got a
too.
new
I
theme
think
song
that's
now.
a jingle.
Yeah.
This is my Bourbon podcast. That was not
That's
in
not
harmony.
a good representation of our music.
Okay, guys, go check it out.
But don't
Sounds
worry about
great. No, we just had a few shots of bourbon.
Speaking
in
of-
the
Oh,
other
did you go hang out with Fred?
We did.
Yeah, that see
A little bit of a
I
legend
I
don't
didn't
know.
want to
there.
make you jealous or anything.
No.
but so you
Fred's a good
know.
friend of mine. But I don't understand how this keeps happening. Fred keeps having interviews, and the interviews
Everyone
that he
comes back
has, they
turnt.
come here, and they're like, "Man, we just got done with Fred Minnick,
Dude.
and like, boy, he was pouring whiskey like crazy."
But now
And
we
I'm
know
like,
all about bourbon. So
yeah, exactly,
ask us
exactly.
questions.
But it's like, where do I go from there at that point?
You need
It's
to,
like,
you need to
know,
crack out the bourbon since you're the
Yeah,
this
what you
bourbon
got?
podcast.
What you got? We are
This
in
is
Louisville.
my bourbon podcast.
So
That's
this
better.
is a.
Oh, that's what Alyssa drank, I think,
Ooh.
right?
Well,
or
I'm
no?
gonna put that back
No,
then.
I don't know.
Are you allowed to have it out?
This is my
Maybe
bourbon
not.
podcast.
We don't want to get arrested.
We're not gonna get arrested, but no, it's fine.
Could you
No,
imagine
anyway.
we all get arrested
We
mid-podcast? We're
all
like,
get-
okay,
This is
Somebody
us leaving.
stop!
We all got arrested in the bourbon podcast.
Don't let my SD card run out.
that would be brilliant.
So something I want to touch on too is
Yeah.
that there had to have been something that you learned from watching your parents
Oh, for sure.
work in a band together.
Yeah.
Right? So how did that kind of translate to you knowing how to work friendship-wise together in a band? Because there should be some kind of like overlap in terms of, you know, that ideology
Yeah.
rather.
Yeah.
Well, my parents told me never to be in a band because they were in a band together
All
their
right,
whole
well, there
lives,
you
and they
go.
were like, "Don't ever be in a band." So I did my solo career for a really long time, and honestly, I've been doing it since I was a child. But I used to watch my mom get dressed on the bus and like watch my mom and dad
But your
sing together
parents
on
are best
stage,
friends.
and they're best friends. And I just wanted to be like them. They're really amazing human beings, but
Yeah.
they're incredible musicians. So as a child, I was like, can I come sing? Can I come sing? And so finally they let me come sing in the middle of their set. And that was like the thing that I did every night as a kid. And so that's the only thing I've known, honestly, is making music. And
Yeah.
I think that like if you watch Ruby and I on stage, we have a lot of like our parents' moves on stage. Like she does a lot of Rod Stewart rock and roll moves, and I do
You
a
know
lot
what's
of
so
Kathy
funny?
Bailey moves.
My story's so opposite that like my dad was like, definitely join a band. Bands are fun. You get to go out and party in foreign countries. It's so much fun. And
Yeah.
so it's funny, our parents' advice was completely opposite. My dad and Ronnie Wood are best friends. You see them on stage together. It's a great show because they're together, you know? And I don't know. I've always kind of wanted to be in a band. They're my favorite thing about music, especially when you see a successful band that still loves each other. You
I'll
look at
tell
Old
you.
Dominion, you're like, man, those guys love each other,
Right,
and they're up
yeah.
there making music. And there's this thing that happens live between them. It's a circle, and it's really because they understand each other. So
That's right.
man, I love being in a band. I wouldn't
Me
have it
too.
any other way. Are we
I'm
allowed
glad
to
I
curse
didn't
on
listen.
this show? Are we allowed to curse?
No.
Yeah, you can.
No.
I wouldn't have it any other fucking way. I was gonna say that, but then I was like, I might not be able to.
Festival shows usually
Yeah.
run R-rated, so
You know,
it's all good.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Honestly, I'm glad
Yeah.
I didn't listen to my parents.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Does your dad still hang out with Jeff Beck or?
Yeah, they're doing a show
They're playing
together.
a show at the
Hollywood
Hollywood Bowl.
Bowl, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Shoot.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Jeff Beck's one of my guitar heroes.
Yeah,
so
he's awesome.
He's amazing.
He's incredible.
I've spent some time with him. He's a pretty
Have you?
sweet man, but also very like not crazy, but just no. He's so talented. It's almost genius.
okay.
You know what I mean?
I
like the
gotcha.
way he hears
I gotcha.
things. He's so insanely talented. So yeah. Crazy talented.
Crazy talented.
Crazy
is a
genius.
good way of putting
We've
it,
had some pretty great mentors growing up.
No
my
kidding.
mentors were like Vince Gill, Reba McEntire, Kenny Rogers. Ruby's mentors were Ronnie Wood, Keith Richards, and who
Stevie
else?
Nicks.
Stevie Nicks. So
Yeah.
we got pretty lucky.
Keith Richards.
What
We
is
got pretty
this?
lucky.
Oh my God, what is that? Is that all the names we just dropped on the floor?
I'm
I think
so
we need to
sorry.
pick those up. I'm so sorry.
So,
It's weird because like for us that's normal.
right, but
we're
like,
all human,
but like
right?
oh no, absolutely, but like,
Sorry.
yeah, no, it's good, but like, there is still that kind of that moment where you go, these are the people that are in it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like, yeah, heroes are still just people,
Yeah.
or the folks that you look up to,
Right.
you know, as you're growing up are still people, but
Right.
you know, they did still have an impact
Right.
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the person that you became, whether or not it's musically or spiritually
Yeah.
or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so like to hear that, to hear those names
Yeah.
spoken in such a casual way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's oddly enough, kind of special.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right?
And we
know?
feel like it is too. I mean, the other day I was over at Ruby's dad's house. Honestly, our parents are so supportive. Like, my parents
That's amazing,
have a
though.
studio in our house in Franklin that I grew up in, and we recorded a lot of our record there. And
in fact, Alyssa wants to do vocals somewhere else, and I'm like, can we do them at your house?
Yeah, I know.
I want to do it
Totally.
with your dad engineering. 'Cause they're
Totally.
and then her mom comes up, and she's like strict Italian, right? Like comes
She's
up,
so
like, hey,
Italian.
you guys hear this? You guys hear this harmony right here? I feel like you guys got to have this right here. And you're
Yeah.
just like, yes, because you don't get that in the studio.
It's
you get
really
like, hey,
fun.
do you guys need coffee? And you're like,
Yeah, right.
My,
Yeah.
mom, my mom does
the-
that too. She's so cute. She's like, "Are you guys hungry? I'm bringing you some food." So she like brings us up
carrots
food.
and
Like
cheese.
literally, they're so
It's a whole plate of
yeah,
sandwiches.
no,
Yeah.
for real. But like, they're
Lemonade.
I mean,
so
I believe it. So.
they're
Yeah.
so supportive,
best
and we're.
studio ever. Did you break
Did
your
you hurt
tooth?
I
yourself?
don't think I hurt.
Are you
I
good?
think I broke my tooth.
Well, that's another. You're good. It looks
Okay,
great.
Yeah,
Both of
it
our
hit me
teeth.
right in the tooth. I've never hit myself in the
Oh,
in the
man, I
mouth
do
with
that
a
every
microphone
night.
before.
Ruby and I both have front missing teeth. You'd never know it because we have fake teeth. But
We
I
have
knocked
good
out my left
dentists, is
tooth.
why
Now I'm
you
gonna be,
should
knocked
now I'm
out
gonna
a
be
right,
looking like.
a right
Yeah.
tooth. Yeah.
Yeah, see it?
Mine's
Good,
the left
good.
one. Hers is the right one.
Yeah.
Aw.
That guy. That guy.
Weird.
You're just going. I can't feel
Anyway.
anything.
So if you get a fake tooth, I got a guy. He
Yeah,
needs it.
fake
You
tooth.
need it.
Great.
But I was gonna say that I was over at Ruby's dad's house in LA. They let us stay there when we're out there. It's so awesome, and it's like having a home away from home. And I was hanging out outside, and Ronnie Wood walked in, and Ronnie and Rod wrote the song Gasoline Alley. And
Yeah.
when we started the band, Rod, it was really a tip of the hat. We started covering that song. Because Rod had really heard us first sing together and said, you guys should really think about starting a band. So we played our first show ever. It was at the Hotel Cafe, and we invited all of Ruby's friends and all these people that we knew, like just hoping that like one or two or three people would come. And at this show, there was like Rod Stewart, Steven Tyler, like everyone, all of Ruby's friends, all of the people that have followed me over the years that live in LA, they were there. We sold out the show. It
I
was
wish
crazy.
you could see your face right now.
It was crazy.
I know what it
But
looks like.
So
It's
we
just
did
this.
Gasoline Alley, and we surprised Rod, and we've been doing it in our set like pretty much
by the
ever
way,
since then.
My dad told us to do a Joni Mitchell song because
Yeah.
that's the first time he ever heard us sing. We were singing Joni Mitchell on a plane, and he was like, you guys should start a band. And Alyssa and I were like, we're doing our solo thing. We don't want to start a band right now.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, a year later, we had started a band, and we're playing Hotel Cafe. And so we figured we should do Gasoline Alley our own way.
First gig.
My
So-
dad
First
was...
gig.
Yeah,
First
first
gig.
gig.
Hotel Cafe.
Hotel Cafe.
And
but
My first
dad
gig
is
was at a
like,
Mind
coffee
you,
house.
we had played it before individually. You
Yeah.
had played it with your band Revoltaire. I had played it as a solo artist, and over the years.
Played Gasoline Alley?
No,
Oh.
Hotel Cafe.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had been really cutting our teeth as individuals before we met as a band, and when we came together as a band, we kind of merged our worlds together.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, my point in telling you this story is that Ronnie Wood walked in, and I was like, oh my God, I have to ask him how he plays Gasoline Alley, because I've been playing the guitar part, and I want to make sure I'm playing it right. So Rod goes, I'll get the guitars. So he goes to get the two guitars, and Ronnie and I are sitting on the couch, and then Ruby and Rod and Penny are sitting on the other couch, and we all start playing Gasoline Alley together, and I'm like, what is my life? This is so cool. And I guess I was playing it right.
My
so.
dad is all the way in Lexington, Kentucky right now, but I can just.
Is this live?
I can hear. No.
Oh.
But I mean, I can just
Dad.
hear. I can hear. Well, he'll hear it later
Dad.
on. But
What's
yeah.
your dad's name?
His name's David.
Dave?
Yeah.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Dave, the dad.
Hi from the sisterhood band of Dave.
Come see our show. You're going to like it if
That
you
will
like
be the
rock and
highlight
roll.
of his day. I'm
Yeah.
not even gonna lie. I'll call him and it'll be like, yeah,
Yeah,
was no
man.
sisterhood band. Give me a shout
Oh,
out. So,
yeah.
like,
Anyway.
Love dads.
Anyway, they're cool.
They're cool.
Yeah.
They're great. Yeah. I
Well,
I
you
love my
raised a
dad,
good
so.
son, so
Yeah.
don't cry.
And
He's
stop.
crying,
Here we
you
go.
guys. You can't
Yeah.
see his
Here
face,
we
but he's
go.
crying.
Well, that's the end of the podcast. No, I'm just kidding now. You guys have new music coming out.
We do. We've got
Yeah.
2 songs that are out right now. One's called Bullet. The other one is called Get Up and Go.
You have a music video coming out for Get
Yeah.
Up and Go.
On
And it's
Wednesday.
shot all around California. It's so fun and bright and just beautiful shots. And Jess Amerson directed it, and our friend Dallas shot it. So it's just, we're keeping it in the family, you
Good.
know, like our friends working on these projects. But
It's
it's
fun.
coming out Wednesday,
Awesome.
the 18th. I'm
Yeah,
so
September.
excited.
So if you're listening to this after that, you can watch our music video
Yeah.
Get Up and Go.
This will actually come out the day that it comes out.
The day that it comes out, great.
Yeah, it comes out on Wednesday.
Well, here you go. So
that is weird.
Yeah.
And
Guys,
there'll
go
be a
check
link.
out our
There'll be a
music
link
video.
somewhere to watch that video.
I'll
I'm
throw
sure.
a link in the description.
Perfect.
So,
Yes.
Yeah, but
you guys
we
will be
did
able to
it.
go check it out.
We really wanted it to just like capture our personalities because Ruby and I have no fun at all, as you can tell.
None.
So shy.
Nothing.
So shy.
Just stale.
stale
bland
personalities.
conversations.
But it's, you know what's really crazy about it though? Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood yet? The
I've not
Quentin
seen it
Tarantino
yet,
film? Oh my
no.
god, it's so cool. But it's like all like 1969, and we drove this 1969 Cadillac around in this music video with Longhorns on the front of it. It was so funny.
That's
It's
amazing.
pretty badass.
We don't
pretty
take ourselves very
fantastic, yeah.
seriously.
I
Two
love it.
chicks in a Longhorn car, Cadillac. People were just stopping and like just taking photographs.
Oh
on
my
street,
God.
Videos.
You know what's
It's
crazy
so
though?
fun.
Stewart's daughter?
Yeah. You know what's crazy about driving a car like that though? It makes people
Yeah.
smile. Like you're driving
it
down the
absolutely
road
does.
and you
Yeah.
see these random people that are like, oh my god, like smiling at this
Or
car.
take pictures.
And you're making strangers smile. So
Right.
I'm glad we got to do that for a week.
When are you guys coming back to Kentucky next? Because I feel like there's a
Soon,
whole nother
man.
hour and a half of
Oh,
conversation
let's do
that we
it
could
anytime. I
have.
love it here. We're
Let's
about to
do
go
it.
get some food and
Oh, heck
check
yeah.
out. I've
Yeah.
never been here. It's my first time. So
In Kentucky, period?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
gotta check it out.
So next time you guys come back through, I know that there's a whole nother conversation to be had.
Let's
Yes,
do it.
So-
Thanks for having us on your
Absolutely.
podcast.
Thank you all
This is
so
gonna be
much.
fun.
For sure.
Excited for it to come out.
The Sisterhood Band. Go check them out.
Thank you, dude.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys. So this is kind of a different little interview from what we've normally been doing this weekend. I'm excited for this one. This is John Timms. This is Fred Minnick's publisher for Bourbon Plus. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. This is really cool. So Fred stopped by the media tent and said, you know, you got to interview John. And I said, whatever you say, Fred. so here we are. So, John, you've got a rich background, not just in publishing, but hunting too.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah. So where are you from?
So I'm from South Alabama, and grew up in the hunting world, which is obviously the lifestyle people, and end of the day always having a bourbon. So I think that's why I'm here today.
So Bourbon Plus is not the only magazine that you have.
No,
you've been a part of.
the first publication is called Covey Rise, which is a high-end lifestyle magazine we cover upland bird hunting around the world, which is involved with people, chefs, dogs,
Yeah.
all the fun stuff. So we run around the world all through the year chasing those things, chasing stories and wine and cigars and bourbon, that type of stuff.
I think I've picked it up before. Just that I'm not much of a hunter.
Yeah.
By any means, but like I think I just remember going into Barnes and Noble or something like that and seeing it on the newsstand and going, that is a beautiful looking magazine. And picking
Yeah,
it up and
we're big
flipping
into
through it.
photography. That's you don't have to be a hunter to enjoy
Yeah.
this. It's so chock full of photography and, like I said, food and
Oh, yeah.
all the essentials of a
Absolutely.
lifestyle guy. So yeah, we're there at big newsstands of Barnes and Noble, Hastings, and of course we're in a lot of the hunting world stores as well.
Yeah, and if you've picked up an issue of Bourbon Plus, you know just how beautiful all the photography and everything is in that as well. So it only makes sense that those two things kind of line up together. How did Fred connect with you and get you kind of roped into Bourbon Plus?
So it's an interesting deal is when I put Covey Rise together in 2012, we were looking for a bourbon writer. And as I did my research, Fred was the one that kept coming to the top. And I contacted him, and he's been writing our spirits column for the last 7 years for Covey Rise. And he and I were just having a bourbon about a year and a half ago talking about the column and different things. And I said, I've been thinking about branching out and doing another magazine about just bourbon and telling the stories of the people and behind the scenes what nobody else really does. And he said, I've been thinking about doing the same thing. So over Bourbon Plus was evolved. So in birth right there, of course, in Louisville. So.
Can't imagine a better way for that to have really happened either.
It's perfect. I mean, it's and with Fred's background and knowledge of the spirits industry and bourbons and everybody he knows and it was just a perfect way to segue into a new publication.
There's no way that, you know, when you're doing something like this, that it kind of stays exactly what you had originally envisioned. I mean, I imagine that it's constantly changing. There's moving parts to it that, you know, wind up making for a greater, bigger picture. So what are some of the ways that Bourbon Plus has changed since its first issue?
You know,
last year?
we listen to the audience a lot. We obviously did something that there's really not a bourbon magazine out there like this, because it's more for the consumer, whether you're a master distiller, whether you're a new guy that's getting into it, or gal. Right. And, you know, we try to do some nifty things with photography and illustrations, and to be different. But, you know, we've changed. It's still pretty solid the way we came about it, because we listened before we started it.
Sure.
Now, yeah, we're tweaking some things, you know, doing more culinary stuff, because people love food and love to know how to cook with bourbon.
Yeah.
Going in that avenue, and really we're getting a lot of feedback on our amateur hour, because everybody doesn't know everything about bourbon.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We're trying to tell the Bourbon 101, if you will, to those that want to learn more.
Well, I feel like magazines are a really easily consumable medium.
Yeah.
Or easily consumable media. And the fact that, you know, there are so many people who are still new to bourbon, they're still trying to, you know, get their feet wet, and that there is something like that in a nationally published magazine.
Yeah.
Is it international now too?
Yeah, it is.
Well, there you go.
It is as well, and it's you know, we try to make it experiential. Everything's, you know, everybody wants an experience nowadays. You know, it's not the same old thing of going to a bar and saying, "Hey, bartender, give me a Jack and Coke," or just slamming a whiskey down. It's everything's curated and experience behind it, and that's what we try to do at the magazine. So, you know, for one, you sit down and maybe take a break and enjoy what you're reading about, and over a nice cocktail or whiskey neat. And so it's tried to be more of an experiential thing, because that's what the consumer wants nowadays.
I feel like that's something that's it definitely has felt like that from day one for me, that it's very well curated. It just has this organic kind of quality to it that makes it feel like some real love and real passion went into making it.
Yeah,
and,
well,
I'm quite a fan.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and we've got a great staff, and you know, the one thing we do is we're writing new content and taking all our photography, so it is a lot of love and passion and thought process going into trying to tell stories about some of these icons that have been in this industry that, you know, maybe somebody's not told before. Because they're all real people, all of us, no matter if you're making the barrel or rolling the barrel or making the hooch or selling it or making a cocktail with it. So it's an interesting, fun thing to get the personalities of the individuals, basically from the cornfield all the way to the cocktail being made.
Well, let's talk about Covey Rise too, because I know that's a huge part of, you know, your story of your life. How did that magazine come to be? I mean, I imagine that it was, you know, the same kind of deal, just having that idea and the passion for it and everything,
that's
snowballing.
Yeah, correct. It's basically was my hobby. I love to travel. I love bird dogs. I love good food and a good bourbon. So that was born out of a hobby passion that I enjoy, and never dreamed that it would go as big as it did, to go international, and that we would cover international events and stories and chefs and have international advertisers with us.
Yeah.
It's just that has definitely grown way outside of what I ever thought it would grow and do, and it's opened so many doors, and obviously it opened the door to meet Fred and to be able to, you know, get into Bourbon Plus. So
I also imagine too that it taking this leap forward into doing something like Covey Rise gives you a totally different view of hunting culture.
Oh yeah.
Too, and has really opened your eyes to the world of it.
Yeah. It does, and it's not, again, as I said earlier, it's not, you don't have to be a hunter to enjoy this.
Yeah.
Because it is a lifestyle. I mean, these people, you know, they may be wing shooting during the fall, but they're fly fishing in a trout stream somewhere around the world. They're traveling. They're enjoying all the benefits of it. And the interesting thing about it is when we launched Cubby Rise was, print was dying, so to speak, in 2012, and all the digital stuff was going on. And we're true to print. We don't have anything digital of either one of them. So and now we're seeing that print is coming back. Something that's made with high quality paper and good original content is going to last. And we all stare at screens all day long, and sometimes you just want to sit down and smell some ink on paper and immerse yourself. So
I absolutely agree with that. There's really nothing like it's the same thing with actually holding a book.
Yeah,
there's nothing like that visceral experience of just holding something in your hand and knowing that. It's the same thing with bourbon, knowing that there is all of this love and passion that has gone into creating it and seeing it in person and being able to hold it is just, it's such a great experience. And I applaud you guys for not wanting to go digital. I mean, the podcast is all digital. I mean, that's the only way it can exist, but, that doesn't mean that I don't still have an affinity, an absolute love for print media. I think beautiful.
I think where we are today is, it's a marriage. You have to have both.
Oh, for sure.
You've got to have digital stuff, so you've got to have podcasts, you've got to have social media. And we're asked by our readers, can you put Cubby Rise digital, because the magazine weighs a pound and they don't want to carry these things all over the world, so they'd love to be able to read back issues and stuff like that. So I think it's that fine line of how you mix things, but you definitely want to be able to put print first, but be able to provide your experience in other ways.
Well, John, thank you so much for sitting down with me, man. This is really cool. I love getting to hear about the back end side of Bourbon Plus and everything, and I need to get Fred back on to talk about it sometime here in the future.
Yeah, well, appreciate you having me on. It's always fun to talk about your passions and what you're doing and new adventures you're doing. And of course, Fred and I are having a ball with Bourbon Plus, and looking forward to see where it goes.
I am too. Yeah. I'm excited for it.
Thank you.
Well, Hannah Ellis is here now, sitting down with me on day 2. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Awesome. Hannah, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, about your musical style, and where you're from and all that.
So I'm actually originally from Campbellsville, Kentucky. So
really?
Yeah, just
awesome.
A short little drive here from Louisville.
Yeah.
But I've been doing music for as long as I can remember. I've been living in Nashville for the past 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a lot of songwriting, have had some cuts on other artists as well, and released my own music a couple years ago, and kind of been just hitting the road ever since.
That is kind of that the way that a lot of that goes is you're like, cut your teeth with other people, and then as soon as you get the chance, you got to go out and do it on your own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so songwriting-wise, what who do you kind of lean on as some of your inspiration?
Oh, man, I think I pull a lot from 90s R&B and 90s country.
90s R&B and country.
Yeah.
That is a really interesting mix.
Yeah, so I do actually a cover of No Diggity in my set.
No freaking way.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the weirdest thing.
Okay, I'm ready.
For some reason, I feel like every time I go into a store recently, that song's been playing.
Yeah, and you're jamming, you're dancing, you can't help it.
I absolutely am. But I was in 2 or 3 gas stations over the past week, always playing in there. After, so we went to the Backstreet Boys on Friday night too, and as soon as the show was over, that was what was playing. And now you're playing it today too. What is up with? I don't understand.
The universe really wants you to hear this song.
I think I'm gonna have to take a break from interviews and come over and hear you play this song. This is really awesome.
Please do.
That is super super cool.
Yeah.
So you're Kentucky native.
Oh yeah. Born and raised, baby.
That is awesome. I'm from Lexington, and that's where
I went to school.
Oh, did you go to UK?
Oh yes, I did. I was at the game yesterday. That was tough, but we did it.
I don't want to. We won't talk too much about it.
Maybe I'll just leave the tent. It's fine.
No, it's fine. It's not your fault they lost.
Right.
And we're going to leave it at that. So, naturally, since you're from Kentucky, we got to talk about bourbon.
Of course. I was very excited.
This is my bourbon podcast.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah. So, are you much of a bourbon drinker? Or?
I was in college. And
As most people say.
Maybe we'll take a break. But it's actually funny. My dad's house is 8 miles from Maker's Mark.
Really?
So I've been there quite a few times.
So is he in Bardstown or is he in Laredo?
So he's like right outside of Laredo.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I love
He lives
Maker's
in
Mark.
Lebanon. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it out there. It's such a beautiful campus,
Yeah.
but it's so hard to get to.
It is. You gotta want to go. You gotta want to go.
So you don't drink bourbon much anymore?
I do. Now my boyfriend is a big bourbon. He's actually an artist, and he has a project called Coffee Black Bourbon Neat because he is such a bourbon drinker.
I'm going to have to check that out. We'll have to get him on the show, too.
Yes, definitely.
Is he local as well?
He is. He's actually here today.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, maybe he'll come through later.
Please do
Yeah.
that. Yes, for
He's
sure.
the guy you want to talk to about bourbon. I mean, I drink it because my boyfriend drinks it. You guys know.
My
have
wife is the same way.
I do have preferences.
Okay, so what's your go-to then?
You know, I really do love, not just because we were just talking about it, but I love Maker's 46. I think it's really smooth.
It's good stuff.
It's what a bourbon should taste like to me.
Yeah.
To me, you know.
I can get on board with
Caramely, and it's like, it's got some really nice notes to it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. We'll get back to the music, too. Yeah. So you said that your first thing came out 2 years ago, right? Yeah. Do you have plans for a follow-up right now?
Yeah, I actually just released a song a month ago called Friends Like These. So I was out on tour with Gavin DeGraw, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, and to set up that tour, we released this song that I'd been playing out a lot, and I end my set with it, and it was just really incredible to see people's reaction, not only live, but also when we finally put the song out, just to see people saying, "Oh, I've been waiting for this," or
That's so cool.
really just connecting with it.
I do love when bands have a song that they play live that has really taken on a life of its own.
Yeah.
And then they go into the studio and they record it and everything.
It
I
just
think
makes
that
it really special.
It absolutely does. Yeah. On the opposite end of that, have you had songs that you've played live that haven't had as warm of a reception? You've just kind of been like, never mind.
There hasn't. There's some songs that, I don't think it's people don't like them. I just think it doesn't move them.
Sure.
And especially live shows, those are different than maybe sitting in a writer's round.
Absolutely.
Than playing something out at a festival.
Yeah.
People want to have a good time, and if they don't connect with it and it doesn't make them move, I think that sometimes it can't land the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally understand that. I mean, like, it seems like anymore now, live shows are really a way for artists to just kind of...
Yeah.
It's like a test kitchen.
Totally.
But with
totally agree.
with music.
But with music.
Yeah. But the fact that you have had that one song that people have really, really latched onto.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really cool.
Very,
so
very.
you living in Nashville now?
Yep, full
Still?
time.
Man, it's funny, and it just kind of was like, yeah, of course, but so many people that are here are all Nashville natives right now. I mean, it's the hub for country music.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
so true.
So how has living in Nashville kind of shaped your sound, shaped your songwriting style since moving there?
Because I believe that Nashville has some of the best artists and musicians and songwriters on the planet. I truly, truly believe that. And so when you get to get in the room with those people, you just elevate. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to write above what you've been writing, and you have to push yourself into
For sure.
a new space, and it forces you to grow, and just the difference in my songs before I lived there and my songs since I've lived there is just astronomical.
I mean, the fact that you're able to surround yourself with so many people that just, not only want to make themselves better, but they want to see, if they see that talent in you, if they see that, that spark of possibility.
Totally.
I mean, that is a great way to, really hone your craft. These daggone flies.
Oh yeah, there's flies. We got flies going crazy up in this tent right now.
It wasn't this bad yesterday. I don't know what happened today, though. So what else is on the horizon? You doing more touring now?
Yeah, I'm actually going out with another Kentucky girl, Carly Pierce, coming up this fall. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
She's great.
She's so incredible. Such a good friend, and it's really fun that we get to finally do some shows together.
That's awesome. Hannah Ellis, thank you so much for sitting down.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to go check out your set here in a little bit.
I love
I'm
it.
pumped
Please
for
come.
it. For
Please
sure,
come.
For sure. Thanks.
All right.
So we had Hannah Ellis, and now we've got her boyfriend, Nick,
What up, man?
on the show. How are you, man?
Hey, good, man.
Good.
Just enjoying the weather. It's beautiful out here.
Yeah, it's a little toasty.
Yeah.
But
well, in the
could
sun,
be much
definitely.
worse.
Yeah.
Could be much worse. So she had mentioned that you had an artist project called Coffee Black Bourbon Neat.
Yeah, man. It's two different EPs. One of them's Coffee Black. The other one's Bourbon Neat.
Awesome, dude. Talk a little bit about that. That sounds awesome.
It's just an idea. Hannah actually said it. Just explaining my personality to somebody and just me as an artist, like just clean cut, kind of straightforward. Nick likes his coffee black and his bourbon neat. And I was like, that's so true. And ended up naming the project that.
We would get along very well then, because I feel that deep inside my bones.
Totally.
What's the music style like?
The music's, it's more soul driven, but it's country as well. It's just a kind of a soulful country.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of drinking songs, obviously, on Bourbon Neat. And I just separated the project up by some stuff I wrote in the morning, some stuff I wrote at night. I was obviously sipping bourbon at night.
That's such an interesting way of approaching a writing project.
Yeah.
Is like consciously breaking up the times to, for when you actually are going to sit down and create a piece of music.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that conscious initially? Or?
No, definitely it wasn't. It was, when you're working through the ranks in Nashville and trying to land a publishing deal or whatever, I was doing what I could, writing whenever I could.
Mm-hmm.
And that typically was at night because I was laying carpet during the day, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so I needed a drink to...
Sounds like a classic Nashville story, man.
Yeah.
That sounds so
classic. I needed a drink to take the pain off my knees and put some inspiration in my head. So I was writing at 6 p.m. with co-writers or whatever, and just a couple of those songs are on this record. And, it wasn't really... in between, I guess, the songs... I ended up getting a publishing deal and being able to make money full-time in music and not have to lay carpet. But yeah. But yeah.
So how many songs per side?
There's 5 each. Right now there are 2 on each out. And then I released an EP called Two Sides, and there's 2 songs on that. And the 2 sides was hinting at Coffee Black, Bourbon Neat.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those songs kind of bookend the project as far as genre-wise.
Gotcha. Yeah. Do you and Hannah... Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you and Hannah ever collaborate?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
We wrote Home and a Hometown together,
Nice.
one of her songs. We've written a couple that haven't come out yet. We wrote How Do I Get Close together, which is kind of how I got my start in the industry. Like Keith Urban recorded it, Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, and it was
That's
just
so
about
cool.
us being artists on the road, yeah. But yeah, we kind of, we've been doing it together for at least 5 years, writing and singing. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
it's been fun.
Knowing that there's somebody else that you can kind of bounce ideas off of, in a really kind of intimate way. I mean,
Totally.
That's really, really cool.
You got to embrace it. I mean,
Sure.
It's becoming more popular to see a couple couples that are both artists. And whenever I hear somebody say, oh, no, we don't do it together. We like to keep it separate. And I'm like, I totally get that. And there's pros and cons to both. But I think the only way to keep it healthy is if we do it together, celebrate together. And obviously, I'm not playing today, but, I'm here with her and traveling with her. And
support is another big
absolutely.
part of that. So.
But supporting each other, getting success together on the same thing, and even a single on her and all this kind of stuff, it's just really fun.
I mean, and there is a level of honesty, too, that I think that, being in a relationship brings to the table as
Absolutely.
well. I mean, not everybody's going to be honest with you if the song sucks.
Absolutely.
But, your
but
partner's
even
going to be.
Being comfortable to be creative is a whole nother
Yeah.
thing. Because
Uh-huh.
I walk into a lot of rooms. We write every day in Nashville, every weekday. So 2 of those rooms a week, I don't know who I'm writing with. Never met them and all that kind of stuff. And you train yourself to be good at that. It's getting to know each other quick and jumping on an idea. But you write different things when you write with people you love.
Absolutely.
You know them intimately.
Yeah. How'd you kind of get your start with playing music?
Started playing at church.
Yeah.
Kind of a popular story. I started playing at 9, played guitar at 9, and then quit. And then didn't start back until after high school, actually.
Wow.
I was 19 years old. I was coming out of a cast, and I was like, I don't know why, but I've got to play guitar. I've got to start playing music. And I grew up in Nashville, so music was always around. My mom and dad did a little bit as well.
I know that feeling of sitting idle for too long and not being able to do it.
You just things find you. The most important thing is not to panic. Don't panic. Trust in what you're doing, and trust that you are looking for what you want to do. People hit panic and they jump into something too quick, or they kind of screw up their opportunities before they're ready. And so I think I was calm and steady through all that, even though I was watching so many kids being from Nashville, they're prodigies essentially, you know, and they're so young. But I come from a different place. I don't know, musically, I guess, just knowing myself before I started making music.
It's not always easy watching people who have things come naturally to them succeed so quickly.
Yeah.
And like, you want to applaud them. You want to give them, you know, that the praise that they deserve, because I mean, they still have a degree of work that goes into it, but you know, I get that, you know, if you're really putting in the grit work to it and it's taking longer.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that. It can be hard.
Makes you happy though too, because I mean,
for sure,
that's
dude.
what
Absolutely
working and feeling accomplished and feeling, you know, when you, it's like when somebody gives you something and then when you work for something, it's totally different feeling, you know.
Oh no,
so it feels amazing.
It totally is, and I mean, you know, saying that hard work pays off is just it's the oldest adage, but I mean, there's nothing more true in this world. So
let's talk about bourbon for.
You want to talk about bourbon?
Yes.
Yes, for sure. Let's talk about bourbon, dude. What kind of a bourbon drinker are you? Other than neat.
Yeah, I'll do 2 rocks in some things, but I love, you know, I'm a bourbon lover. I also love to collect it, but I'm also a bourbon drinker, so it never lasts long, and so I kind of keep myself under about $45 right now. Yeah, a bottle. So
I always say that, you know, I open everything I buy.
Yeah.
Even like high-end stuff.
Totally.
You know, when the antique collection from Buffalo Trace comes out in the fall, if I get a bottle of that, it's getting opened.
Yeah.
It's not being bought to be sold.
Without a doubt, yeah.
You know, I mean, it's important to share it with other people.
Totally.
And like I was talking about this recently. I get this excitement with a new bottle that I want other people to try it too.
Absolutely.
You
That's
know?
part of it.
Yeah, it's all about sharing. It's all
Yeah.
about the community. And, you know, if you're hoarding it just to hoard it, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
it's
that's
there
the
to
thing.
be
It's
drank.
like there's bourbon collectors and bourbon drinkers, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I'm both.
Yeah. That's where I kind of fall, again, I fall into that. Like, whenever you first get into it, you want the more rare bottles and all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, through some other bourbon mentors, there's so many in Nashville, like, they're like, man, you want to find something you can find.
Yeah,
you know, you want to
exactly.
drink something you can find. And so I love all those Buffalo Trace products. I mean, I found a 1.75 Eagle Rare yesterday,
Nice,
and
dude.
I was like, I love the 1.75 bottles, the Magnum bottles. Like, I've got the Weller Reserve and the Buffalo Trace and the Eagle Rare, and I love their products, but I love having those 1.75s, you know.
What's kind of your go-to?
My go-to, I think my favorite of all time as far as on a budget and everything is E.H. Taylor Small Batch.
Oh, my man.
Yeah.
My man.
But I drink, probably my daily bourbon would be like a Buffalo Trace with 2 rocks.
Yeah. I'm a Turkey 101 guy.
Turkey 101? I've got to try that. Okay.
Have you not tried it yet?
I mean, not that I can remember like sitting down and really drinking it.
All right, before you get out of here, we'll take care of that.
Let's do that.
Because trade secret. I've got
Don't they have is it the Rare Bird and all that kind of stuff?
Rare Breed.
Yeah, Rare Breed. That's
Yeah.
right. I've seen a couple of those bottles in some collections.
Russell's Reserve is by them as well.
I've had that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's really
bourbon.
good.
Fantastic bourbon, man.
That's it's all over the shelves in Nashville. Right now.
Russell's is one of those kind of unsung heroes right now of bourbon. Like, nobody knows that it's really a turkey product if you're not really in the know, you know. But I mean, once you kind of latch onto it, it's kind of hard to let go.
Yeah.
But dude, it's so
yeah,
good.
it is good. I want to try that. I mean, I'm so into like cheaper bourbons right now, and just
totally.
It's just
Totally.
I don't know. It's like
we talk all the time about not bottom shelf shaming.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's so many great lower shelf products out there right now. Heaven Hill has just a massive amount of brands that they produce that are all like $10 to $15 a bottle, and they're all bottled in bond, so they're all 100 proof, at least 4 years and everything. So and they're just so hard to beat for the value.
Totally.
I feel like we need to share a drink before the end of the day.
What's
so we'll
unique
do that.
is whenever I was, you know, you go on the tours and you do the Buffalo Trail or the Bourbon Trail and all that kind of stuff. It's learning about the mash bills and learning that so many products are the same juice, you know, and it's obviously the barrel and location of warehouse and weather that kind of plays into 70% of the flavor. But it was so mind-blowing to me because you think of bourbons, they're all different. Every recipe's different, all that kind of stuff, and it's not true. There's only one bill or 3 bills maybe at places.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and Heaven Hill again is another really good indication of that because they really do only have one bourbon mash bill aside from the weeded one, but like all those bottom shelf products that we were talking about, same mash bill.
Yeah,
they're
it's
just
amazing.
bottled to taste.
Yeah.
So they have that tasting panel where they make all that happen and they figure it out, and it really does blow my mind.
Yeah,
that
it's so cool.
It's even a thing. But Nick, thank you so much, man.
Man, thanks for having
sitting
me.
down and talking
I'm glad
with me.
Hannah sent me over here.
Yeah, me too, buddy. So everybody go check out Coffee Black Bourbon Neat.
Yeah, heck
I'm
yeah.
going to be checking it out here later.
Heck yeah,
too.
man.
So,
Drink a whiskey to it.
Yeah, dude.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
We got Kendall Schaefer now. Kendall, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, hey, put it go ahead.
Like right here.
Like right there. There you go.
When I'm on stage.
Yeah, like when you're on stage.
Okay. Okay.
I told somebody that yesterday, and they're like, "Oh, okay, that's easy to do." So,
Yeah.
man, Hometown Rising. This is awesome.
What an awesome festival.
Yeah,
man.
so this is the second day of it, and I'm just kind of like, the giddiness is really kind of setting in of just how awesome all of this is. How have you liked it so far, man?
Man, I think the people are just so nice. We're from South Louisiana, so
I can hear it.
Yeah.
As soon as you said where you were from, I could hear it. Yeah, that's perfect.
So when we got here, I was expecting. We're a big football family back there, so everybody's so competitive. We just had a big game in Texas last week, and it was real competitive, and we had some nasty words with some people. So when I got here, I was like, man, these people are so nice, man.
Man, we had some pretty nasty Florida issues going on yesterday too with UK. So I don't want to talk too much about it. We've already harped on it a little bit, but that was a tough loss.
Yeah, we're not going to go there with
loss.
Florida because we got them coming up next pretty soon.
Good luck, man. Good luck. Let's talk about the music, though.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So where are you at music in so much as like your career?
Well, like I was telling the other people, I still got a day job. So
Yeah.
I go out. I'm a Boilermaker by trade.
Okay.
And a pipe fitter. So I'm versatile. But I'm doing stuff I don't want to do every day.
Yeah.
So,
but the good thing about it though is that you are doing something that you want to do every day, and that's playing music.
And we're not giving up neither. You know, this is probably one of the bigger gigs we've done in a while. We're still playing honky tonks and dive bars back in South Louisiana, cutting our teeth. So when we got invited to do this, we were all hands on deck.
Yes. Yeah.
Immediate.
Yeah. How often do you make it up to Kentucky? Is this the first time you've been here?
This is the first time. And
welcome, then.
And thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely.
And I told everybody when they invited us to Kentucky, I said, man, what in the hell is in Kentucky? I've heard of the Kentucky Derby. I love horses. So that won me in right there.
You got one.
And then I'm a big Jim Beam drinker.
So the bourbon.
So the bourbon, I heard it was a bourbon festival, so we got to come here.
Man, it's
we
just
had
like
to come here because of the bourbon also.
This
so
was
horses and bourbon, you got me one right there, man.
This was just made for you then.
It was.
Welcome, dude. I'm so happy that we actually got to sit down.
Horses, bourbon, and country music. Oh, man.
I can't get any better than that. So who are some of your influences then?
My influences range from anywhere from Hank Williams Jr., Hank Sr., to Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers.
Oh, there you go.
To Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Hey, man. Dude,
Yep.
This is right up my alley.
It's
Stevie Ray's my guitar hero.
Really?
Oh, yeah, dude. All of my guitar playing, I've really kind of based it on Stevie and like John Mayer and that kind of
He's
style.
not somebody bad to follow, I promise you. You know that.
Not at all. I had when I was 13, I was like a year into playing guitar, and my dad was like, "Have you ever heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan?" And I was like, "I don't know who that is." And he was like, "Well, we're gonna watch some Stevie Ray Vaughan."
Yes,
Just totally changed my world at that point. So
I understand that, brother. I really do.
and he's the only reason. I mean, he's the reason I can't play anything other than a Stratocaster, too. So
Come on. And look, we can go back and forth with that because
yeah, I know.
Look,
I still got my telly.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm a big Telly fan. When I hear that ping, ping in the background, I can't get away from that. At the same
I understand,
time,
man. I understand,
I just
dude.
love that good old blues sound also.
Oh, I do too. I do too, man. So you got any music coming out right now?
We've been having our current record out for the last 2 years. It came out in 2018. Now our new record is going to come out in it's going to be 2020 next year, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah. Hey, the bourbon works.
Yeah, the bourbon works. So about February, we're going to come out with a new record.
Good for you, man.
We're releasing a new song in 2 weeks. It's called 12 Ounces of I Don't Care.
Nice. I love it.
I love the drinking songs. I love the feel good, tugs at your heart songs at the same time. But we love to have fun on stage also.
That's awesome, buddy. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me for a couple minutes. Let's go drink some bourbon.
Let's do it.
Sounds good. Kendall Schaefer, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right,
my
man.
friend.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So I'm sitting down now with Low Cash, who are apparently, according to the PR guy, bourbon drinkers as well.
We're in the bourbon mafia, dude.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's more than just bourbon drinkers.
It's more than just bourbon drinkers, bro.
You're bourbon
Yeah,
guys.
It's a bourbon way of life.
Awesome.
Yeah. Is there another way?
Absolutely not.
Right.
No.
This
no,
is correct.
100% not. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to be on it.
Yeah. You guys are about to play a set, right?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yep, about to hit the stage here in just a minute, and we'll be taking our Angels Envy with us on stage.
Ooh,
And
there
we're
you
digging
go.
the rye right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. I had the founder of Angels Envy on the show yesterday.
Wes?
Nice.
Yeah.
He was
Wes
just on the
great.
bus.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he might still be there. Who
Wes
knows?
is part of the bourbon mafia.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm already slurring because I've had too much.
Can you guys throw me a bone and put me in the
can do
Bourbon
that.
Mafia too?
I mean, slurring rhymes with bourbon.
Yeah, that is.
So, I mean, come on. Goes
a
together.
really
That's
good-
that's a
we're
T-shirt
putting
right
that
there.
at Slurring rounds of bourbon.
Yeah, that is definitely a T-shirt. Yeah. So you guys are coming. You come to Kentucky pretty often, then?
We haven't really. I mean, we don't play, but Tennessee is close enough to Kentucky.
We go
to
through
call it home.
Kentucky a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's
And
a
when we
warrant
do-
for our arrest in Kentucky.
There was.
You don't
Not
think
anymore.
it still exists?
No, man. They let us go.
It might
Can you
still
tell
be there.
that story?
Elizabethtown.
We were driving way too fast. 2 different cars, and
We were
got
not
pulled
driving
over.
fast. We were
And,
driving 80 miles an hour.
We were driving way too fast. We got pulled over together in two different cars.
State trooper.
Got a massive ticket slapped on us because
$800 ticket.
now the ticket was so much because Chris had a bunch of passengers that weren't wearing seatbelts, and that dude went crazy
He
on
raped
us.
He raped us.
Can we say that?
Sure.
Okay. All right.
You know
You
what I
can
mean?
say
No,
anything you want.
I'll let you have
I
it.
don't care.
This is this is your bourbon podcast.
That
you
is
can
true.
say whatever you
That is
want to
true.
say on
I
your
said
podcast.
He, not she. Although I would have loved to have been if she raped me. It would've
Oh,
made sense,
okay, there
you
we
know
go.
what I mean? I didn't rape anybody.
I'm glad.
She did.
I'm
He
glad.
did. Look, he was a state trooper. He was doing his job.
What's happening here?
It's bourbon podcast, man. Listen, guy was doing his job. I can't yell at him, but
No,
he
I
could have been
definitely can't.
nice, you know. I
Oh,
mean, we
sure.
were just getting started out, and
Yeah.
I tried to give him a CD, and I think he thought I was trying to bribe him. Because I was telling him we were Low Cash Cowboys then. And I was like, hey, man, we're Low Cash Cowboys. And he's like, have you been drinking? I said, no, sir, I don't do that. And he's like, okay. He's like, what about your passengers? They haven't why are they not wearing their seatbelts?
Yeah.
And he was like, did they all just take them off right now? And I could have lied. But I'm not. I'm a truthful guy. I'm like, no, sir. These guys, they're in the back seat. Well, I didn't know that they had to wear seatbelts in the back seat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, what you would think you had to wear. I mean, kids, yes.
Sure.
But adults?
I don't. Maybe. I'm not going to argue the point.
You know what I
What
mean?
would you
I
do?
understand the front seat, but it was
Sure.
an $850 ticket.
That is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I've never heard of it.
I still gave him a CD.
Well, good for you, though.
Yeah.
That's good.
And he said, go to court, and he never showed up, so. But he made me and Preston drive all the way to Elizabethtown, stay in Elizabethtown Inn or whatever it was, which was scary because I thought it was from the movie Psycho. We were going to get killed. And we went there, and we went over to the lady at the district court, and she was so sweet. She goes, well, honey, your officer's not here. If you just pay me $200, you guys can just walk off. and that was it.
It sounds like she was extorting you.
Yeah, I don't know if she paid the court system that, but I don't know if y'all been to your district court, Elizabethtown. Holy cow, it's huge.
That definitely sounded like extortion, though.
It's huge, though.
Well, they got to pay their bills. Some it's like a casino.
They got escalators in there.
Restrooms
with
You got
showers.
to ticket everybody without a seatbelt.
Right. For the love of God. You must pull
So-
a lot of people over.
So where are you guys actually located out of?
We're in Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense that you were driving through Elizabethtown.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
This was back then when we didn't have a bus.
You got the bus now.
Yeah, we have a bus now.
That's moving on up in the world.
Yeah, well, just means more expensive.
But you got the expenses for it, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. So Hometown Rising, though.
Dude, this is great.
Great festival.
Rising
man.
of a hometown.
Yeah. Have you guys enjoyed it so far?
We just got here.
Have you enjoyed the 5 minutes you've been here?
Yes, because we had
I
Angels
mean, because
Every Rye.
we got our bourbon rocking.
Yeah, once you get to Angels Every Rye, you know. So, all right, so you're a bourbon guy, right?
I'm a bourbon guy, yeah,
Okay.
kind of.
Talk to me about something. Do you know anything about Black Maple Hill?
I know a little bit about Black Maple Hill. I know that it was one of those that was kind of, everybody was like, oh, you got to drink it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it caught on, it was the same thing like Pappy.
Right.
As soon as it caught on, everybody bought it up.
Well, it's the best I've ever had. Now,
Really?
Portland is now trying to say they have their own Black Maple Hill, but it's not the real Black Maple Hill. It's not the one that Van Winkle was part of.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but I have one of the.
I don't think I knew that Van Winkle was part of that.
Yeah, his family or something was part of that. I know that. That's all I know.
Huh.
The secret of Black Maple Hill. If you guys look it up online,
Yeah.
it's the secret of Black Maple Hill.
Okay.
And they tell you the secret of it. And then the bottling company sold over to Portland's, so they're allowed to take the name Black Maple Hill, but it does not taste
Okay.
anything like the original.
So
Black
you
Maple
had
Hill.
the original then?
Oh, I have it at my house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Original.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the OG.
I'm one of the OGs.
So I think what needs to happen is the next time you guys come up to Kentucky, then
Yeah.
you come over to my house and we'll.
I like
we'll
the
drink some
sound of
bourbon.
that.
Done, dude.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the bourbon or the music?
Let's talk all of it.
Okay. I mean,
I still haven't got your favorite. Your number one. Your go-to. You got your wife. You're sitting down. What is it? You're at the bar. You want to impress everybody in the world. What is the drink that comes up right now?
Booker's.
Booker's?
Yeah.
What year?
I'm a big fan of the 2016 releases.
Okay. You're gonna pick that over a Pappy 12
Well,
Reserve?
okay, so here's my thing.
Because the 12 Reserve is legit.
I do like the Lot B a lot.
Okay.
But I'm a high proof guy.
All right. So
Right.
you just care about the alcohol.
Not necessarily. I like the high proof because
They had meetings for that.
It's less, right? But it's less cut, you know.
Okay.
I mean, it's uncut, it's unfiltered, it's got everything that it's supposed to be out of the barrel. It's the true intention of the master distiller, right? So, I think of it as the best iteration of their product,
All right.
So yeah, I'm probably gonna go for a Booker's Moor or like a Russell's Reserve.
Russell's Reserve's very
What
nice.
song
That's
you
Wild
gonna
Turkey, too.
play right then?
What song am I gonna play right then?
One big country song.
There's only one answer that matters.
One big country song.
I was gonna
It's a brand new single.
I was gonna say Cold Blooded by Gary Clark Jr., but
No.
okay, yeah,
Kind of lost us.
We'll go One Big Country Song.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's your new song. When did that
That's
drop?
our new single.
Yeah. That already dropped?
Yes.
It's almost top 40, baby.
About to go top 40.
Awesome, guys. That's fantastic.
It's rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
We're happy about it. It comes off the Brothers album. So pick up both of them right now. If you're
Absolutely.
listening to his podcast, it's not ours. This
is my bourbon podcast.
It's his bourbon.
I mean, I don't feel like we should ever say those words because this is yours.
It's my bourbon. Yeah, it's
your
literally
bourbon.
this
So
is
if
my
you're
bourbon
listening
podcast.
to his bourbon podcast, which is actually called My Bourbon Podcast, but it's not
Well, we
mine.
can't say mine.
Then
Semantics,
you
man.
should download One Big Country Song.
Yep.
For sure.
Fix you some Bookers.
Yeah.
Weigh it however you like it.
Oh,
and then
neat.
sit back. Maybe go ahead and download some Brothers too, because there's a bunch of songs on there
There's
we
a
want
lot.
you to hear.
Oh, I'm
makes you
definitely
wanna
gonna do
drink
that.
bourbon.
I'm definitely gonna do that.
Slur and bourbon.
Low Cash, Preston, Chris.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for
Thank
sitting
you,
down
brother.
with me. Yeah, lots of fun. So now we have an American Idol star. Well, we're gonna talk about it a little bit. It's gonna come up a little bit. Gabby Barrett.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You sounded fantastic this morning.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. So, you started on American Idol. You competed on American Idol. You came in third.
I did.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. You've clearly blown up since then, too. I mean, opening the second day of a festival in Louisville, Kentucky.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it really is. So
Very
has
close.
country music always kind of been your roots then for...
You know, I started originally singing when I was about 9 years old in
Yeah.
a gospel choir. So originally my roots were R&B, but I think you get a lot of influence from what your parents kind of play around you.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
my dad was always the R&B. My mom always played country. So,
Yeah.
you know, I combined the two. So, and then I started performing when I was 11. So I had been doing it way before I did American Idol. And then American Idol was a huge blessing that just came along.
Sure,
and,
yeah.
And I didn't know where it was going to take me, but I got...
It brought you to Louisville, Kentucky.
Right? And I got a soon-to-be husband out of that, too. so-
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's
yeah.
awesome. When
It's
y'all
been
get
great.
married?
This year. So in the colder weather, hopefully.
We got married in June a few years back.
June.
Yeah, it
Why
was.
would you pick June?
It was literally 100 degrees the day that
Where'd
we got married.
Where?
In Frankfort, Kentucky.
Okay.
So it was miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, miserably hot.
Outside?
But yeah.
What are you doing?
No.
I'm
It was
kidding.
beautiful. I mean, we had a great
I
venue
know
and
that
everything.
you
but
would
like,
sweat to death.
well, yeah.
It was worth it though, right?
It was totally worth it.
Okay.
We were high school sweethearts too.
That's
so
sweet.
We were like, everything's got to be perfect, and it was. I
That's
mean, it
so
was
cute.
absolutely perfect.
That's
so
so
anyway,
cute.
I'm gonna stop talking about myself.
No, I love that. I love that.
So you met your fiance on American
did.
Idol. That's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. So since then, have you guys kind of worked collaboratively on music? Have you
Yeah.
been writing together and everything?
It's it's nice to have somebody that understands this side of the business,
Yeah.
as well, and is a performer as well, and understands kind of giving support and being understanding towards things. So that's been really nice. And yes, we have been working together on music. We actually wrote a song together that we don't even know what we're gonna do with, but maybe we'll become Tim McGraw and Faith Hill someday
you
like
go.
that. So he made the top 5 and I made the top 3. So we're close.
But that's a really good indication of
Yeah.
A, that you can work well together, and B, you've got something like
Yeah, sure.
You've got something behind the both of you, kind of individually,
Sure.
that you could do something with,
Mhm.
for sure.
Very true.
But as you kind of transitioned into your solo career, how did people treat you as an American Idol alum? Because that's
Yeah.
not a light thing
Sure.
to come off of. You
Sure.
know, what was kind of that immediate reaction that came?
Actually, it was
post
bad.
American Idol. I would imagine.
It was not very good because I came off the show and no labels wanted anything to do with me. None whatsoever. I mean, we went and met with them. We went and none. And going on a show like that, you would think, and especially other people watching the show would think, oh, well, they're good to go now. And it's like not even close to that. You have to come off the show and then you got to start almost from ground one again because the show is mostly my season was all cover songs. But where are your original songs? You know what I mean? It's like the song is so important. Carrie Underwood wouldn't be Carrie Underwood without Jesus Take the Wheel and Before He Cheats and all these songs. No artist would be. So, I really just stuck my nose to the ground with writing and then ended up with I Hope. And then fortunately, I had a few label offers come in and then just naturally gravitated towards Warner, and it's been great ever since.
It's so funny to see the machine that is American Idol function, and even winners of American Idol get lost. You know, I mean, there was that chunk of time, right in the middle of American Idol, where everybody who won did nothing. They never put out albums. Nobody heard from them ever again. But in the moment, everybody loved them.
Sure.
You know?
Yep.
I'm amazed and honestly kind of proud is not the right word. I just met you, but
well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
But there's a sense of good for you for sticking with that and like wanting to go for that, regardless of that stigma that surrounds a post-American Idol life.
Thank you.
That's a big risk to take.
Yeah.
For sure.
The Lord has been very good to me. He's been
Amen to that.
very gracious, blessed me immensely because
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was, I just kept plugging along and didn't know what was going to come. And now it's just been amazing to see everything kind of grow and start to take off.
So were you writing during American Idol? Like, were you able to find the time to write during American Idol?
Not during American Idol. I was not because you're so crammed on time on American Idol.
Sure.
It's
For sure.
When I watched the show when I was younger, I thought, oh, you see people performing on the TV. I can go perform. I've been doing it for 6 years before American Idol. I could go do that. Went on the show, and it was completely like I was challenged in so many different areas that I didn't even know were possible of being challenged
Well,
on.
it's more than just, you watch the show and like,
right.
You think that it's, just a couple minutes. You go into the room with like Will.i.am or Jennifer Lopez or
Right.
whatever. But I mean, how long is that actually? How long do you actually spend with those guest artists that?
Like the judges and stuff?
Yeah.
We got to spend some time with them. Fortunately, I got to spend about an hour. For my season, it was Lionel Richie, Luke Bryan, who I'm on his lineup today, which is very strange.
Yeah, you are. It's very cool.
And I'm actually going to go say hi to him after this. And then...
Can you send him over?
And then Katy Perry. I'm going to go say hi.
Send him over here, too.
Yeah.
I want to interview him, too. That'd be awesome.
And then Katy Perry. And so they were great, amazing on the show. Something I noticed about American Idol is they really, really focus on the contestants, which is really nice. And I was always very grateful. Everybody was on the show towards the staff and the producers of American Idol. How much they showed. I mean, if anybody listens to this and has a child or wants to go audition for American Idol or a show in general, I would really push American Idol because they are just great all around.
That is so nice to hear.
They're great.
Honestly, because you hear rumors or you hear like what the behind the scenes life is like, because at kind of the core of it is to some degree like a reality TV show.
Right.
But to hear that, there's a really kind of positive vibe behind it, that's nice to hear. And I think that's kind of a breath of fresh air.
Sure.
As opposed to just like the producers being all in your face and trying to, get you to react a certain way.
Sure, and it being just rough and like scripted the whole time. I mean, that's why originally I was a little skeptical of doing American Idol.
Understandably so.
Not just because it was American Idol, but any TV show. Because, again, I'd performed for 6 years and already was building an audience. Like, before I went into Idol, I had 50K on Instagram, and I had 110 likes on a fan page on Facebook. And so I was building an audience, working really hard at it.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go onto a show and have somebody kind of tear it down and destroy something I worked so hard on, and they didn't.
So, but what I like about that is that you had a good following, but you still had room to grow.
Sure.
Right? So... yeah, I totally understand that. You want to still kind of stay true to what you're doing and everything.
And they did, which was great. They allowed that to happen.
That's something that I remember. I haven't really watched it in the past few years. I apologize, but
shame on you. No, kidding.
I haven't really watched it much in the past few years. But in the first 10 seasons of it or whatever, they didn't seem to allow people to have their style or their take on anything. And, if they were playing a Stevie Wonder song, it had to sound like Stevie Wonder. As opposed to, if you were more, say, Delta Blues influenced or something, you weren't really allowed that take on it.
Sure.
It just seems like, from what I understand, my understanding of it is that they've given the contestants a lot more space to express themselves.
I mean, I know that the show is run by different people now. It used to be owned by Fox, and now it's run by ABC. So I'm going to guess that they have different people and stuff. I don't know personally because I was really young when those first few seasons were coming out.
That's
Even
fair.
though I do remember my parents voting for Carrie Underwood to win. I do remember that. But it's blurry in between, so I'm just fortunate for my season. It worked out really well.
I'm sorry that we've spent so much time talking about
No,
American Idol.
it's
You've done so much since then.
Thank you.
What's the the culmination of the work that you've done since then? Like, what all have you released since you left American Idol?
So with American Idol, I've released 2 songs. I've released I Hope, and then I released not too long ago a song called The Good Ones, which is the complete opposite of I Hope, which is a 360. I Hope is about a bad relationship and how you truly feel towards somebody, and then The Good Ones is about my current fiance, and so it's a bittersweet type of song. I wanted people to have both, and so we have a ton of more music that we want to release that I, of course, want to release right now, but that's not how things work. My management's like, no. And so, but we're working on it.
Awesome. Gabby, thank you so much for sitting down
thank
with me.
you.
I really appreciate it. Best of luck to you. And
Appreciate it.
everything.
Thank you.
For sure. You ready, man?
That beer's good. I like it. All right.
This is the way I like to do interviews, by the way, is doing a little bit of drinking. I mean, this is my Bourbon podcast, so I figure we're going to be drinking a little bit.
This is my Bourbon podcast.
Yeah. Dylan Carmichael.
Yeah.
Welcome, man.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Super excited to have you.
We just played. On the stage.
Yeah.
The Boots and Bourbon stage. Speaking of bourbon.
How'd the set go, man?
Oh man, it was so good. I about passed out though because I was so daggone hot.
Oh, it's stupid hot up here.
Oh, it's so hot, man.
That's been the main point of conversation today. Is just how hot it is and how many bugs are flying around our heads right now.
Yeah,
but
well, bugs are hot too. They're looking for water.
So you've got a pretty significant Kentucky note to your heritage, considering you were. You were born here.
I was born here. I was born in Stamford, Kentucky. Raised in Bourbon, which is right dead center.
Yeah.
And I love Kentucky. I grew up on Bourbon. Everybody always, they ask me, they're like, what part of Kentucky? I say, oh, well, Central Kentucky. Bourbon country.
Where the best bourbon's made.
Horse country. And say you start drinking bourbon when you're 15. Some people say you're born with it in your bottle.
It's to help you sleep at night.
Exactly. And numb your gums. That's what. Rub it on the baby's gums when they're teething or something.
So, not just the Kentucky connection, of course, but you've got a pretty significant music industry connection as well.
Yeah. Elvis Presley may or may not be my father. But
that is fantastic.
No,
that is a better answer than I could have hoped for. There.
I'm joking, baby. I'm joking. No, so my mom is a singer. Her name's Becky Montgomery.
Yes.
She has 2 brothers named John Michael Montgomery and Eddie Montgomery. Ring a bell?
Those names sound familiar.
They've been pretty successful in the country music business, and so it's just a family business,
I love that, though.
The neighbors down the road, the Smiths, they might be farmers. Well, their kids might still be working on that same farm, but we're musicians and we sing. That's what we do.
You didn't. So it's an interesting kind of thing that you have to kind of balance, I imagine, being in a musical family. Did you feel any kind of pressure to go into the music industry as you're getting older?
No, I didn't feel any pressure. I pretty much always wanted to do what I do.
Good. That's awesome.
It's definitely been a dream of mine forever. I never necessarily wanted to be, I think that I never really cared a whole lot about being super duper famous and all that stuff. Of course, it's nice to be appreciated for what you do, but I was about the music. The music is my soul and what speaks to me.
Right, and it's nice to be noticed.
Yeah, and the fans. I've made. My fans they're not fans, they're family.
Absolutely.
And I get to know them, and we have a connection through my music. And then I learned when I started getting fans that's what's important, So me making music, cool. It's good for my soul, whatever. But the important thing is if it's good for those folks and it affects them positively,
That's such a great outlook to have, though. Is just, the music is primary.
Yeah. It's
why. But everything follows suit.
Yeah.
Afterwards, and I think that if you've got your head in the right place, which it sounds like you do, that's that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Everything's going to follow afterwards.
Yeah, hopefully. No, it seems like, what they say, the cream will rise to the top or whatever. I think that, the bottom line is that you can look at it from a perspective like, oh, well, I'm going to reach all my goals in the next 5 years or whatever. But the bottom line is Leonard Skinner, they weren't their biggest until after Ronnie Van Zant and all those guys died in the plane crash, Like, music lives, and I want to be making music now that's going to live long after I'm gone, and that is my focus, not, I got to, do this in the next 5 years or I'm going to explode.
Right.
So it's all about longevity for me. I want to continue to make music throughout my life and be happy. So
I think that's great, man. So what do you have out right now that people can tune into and listen to?
I just released a new single. It's a Grat track that I released Friday, which
that's awesome.
Means pretty much like it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, on Amazon. You can buy it on iTunes, whatever. But it's not going to be on the radio. That's a Grat track. So 99 problems, but a fish ain't one.
I love it. I saw that you released that earlier, and I was hoping you would.
And then I got a radio single out right now called "I Do for You."
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've seen the music video.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's
good stuff, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, go check out the music out. I think that you guys are really gonna love Dylan Carmichael. Man, thank you so much
thanks for having me,
for hanging out,
Thank
buddy.
you.
It's been great.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, man. Cannot say thank you enough to Danny Wimmer Presents, good friend Fred Minnick, all the folks at Hometown Rising. It's just a fabulous first-time event that they were able to put on, and I was so fortunate to get to be a part of it in the capacity that I did, and I won't be able to to stop gushing about it for a while, and it was nothing short of successful. I just want to say that, and I'm really excited for next year. I think it's going to be bigger and better, and not that this year was bad by any means, but I think that it's only going to go up from here. So, as my voice continues to run out, let's wrap up the show. Thank you all so much for listening. If you would like to follow up with me personally on social media, I am at pritter1492 on all social media channels. If you would like to follow the show, though, it is at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you could give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes, that really does help us out. Gets more people finding the show and listening to the show, and we're all about that. We're all about sharing this show around because it's special and we love what we do. If you have questions or comments, you can send them to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com. We'd love to read some of those out on the podcast. Once we get back to our regular home base episodes here in a couple weeks, we will start doing that, I believe. So get those questions in. We would love to hear from you guys. If you're not yet a part of our Facebook group, you can search on Facebook for This Is My Bourbon Group, and we would love to have you on there as well. There's just a couple questions for you to answer, so check that out. Bourbonshop.threadless.com is where you can find all of our apparel and merchandise. So please go and check that out. And then last but not least, patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. Y'all, this is important. It really does help us out. It is, not something that everybody can do. We totally understand that. But it really does help this show continue on week to week, month to month, year to year. And speaking of year to year, we are coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the podcast and just a few weeks away from episode 100. And I cannot believe it's happening. But because of you guys, we have been able to continue with this show and make it what it is today. And thank you all so much for where you not just the money that you put in, but the love and the time and just the sheer passion for it. And that, I think, has meant more to me than anything so far, and I'm just so privileged and so thankful rather, to have you all be a part of that. If you do want to become a patron of the show, again, it's patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. You get stuff like bonus episodes. You get to hang out with us via Google Hangouts. You get live streams just for the patrons, all sorts of cool things that you can go over and enjoy there. that about does it. I'm going to go save my voice, and I'll see you next week. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is my Bourbon Podcast. Thanks for listening, y'all. Cheers.